We're live. Hi, and welcome to Gay Out the City. I'm your host, Prince Electro Diamond, and today I am here with 2018 Burley Pick World Champion Cirque performer Gabe Gabriel. How you doing today, sexy?
I'm great. How's it going over there?
I am good. It's Monday.
Yeah, it is a Monday. It's
like
been a very Monday too.
I always feel like if I did something that I would love, I would do that. I'm one of those people who felt, for example, if I did morning radio, it's like, and I was like a talk show host in the morning, I'd be like, I would love my job. The problem
Yeah.
is, I I know they'd have censor buttons, and then they'd have like 8 guys around me being like waiting to push that button because I have a tendency to say fuck, and I have no problem about it, and like,
Oh, Steve, I hate when we do their family friendly shows. Like I'm like always like, and for yeah, kids. Like I'm so bad at it.
what you do? Wait,
I get it.
you do family friendly shows?
We do. I don't. I host them sometimes, but I'm more of just like a juggler background performer when it comes to the family friendly stuff because I'm like I don't want to perform for kids. Like, but it's part of our company. Like what we produce. So I'm like I'll be part of it, but like I'm gonna hide in the back because I'd rather be a stripper.
Exactly. See, my whole thing is, as a musician, I could do the shows. Like, if you hand me enough money and like I'm doing something outside, I'll gladly do it. You're booking me in a club, forget it. And that's at any time of day. Like, so at one point I used to live in Orlando before I lived where I'm at now. I lived in
hmm
Orlando for 4 years, and I remember I screamed motherfucker into a microphone one night to end like one of my sets, and then the following week I had the owner of the bar come up to me, like, bring me my water, and she's like, yeah, there's old people in the audience this week, don't swear. I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm at a bar, like, this is my thing, it's like, I'm at a
Right.
bar, I'm like, I'm at an open mic night, like, what's the problem here? But
That's
I'm
so
like,
funny.
it's like,
Yeah,
fine, I won't
that
offend
concept
old
always
people.
surprises me. Like when they're like, "Yeah, don't swear." Still, I'm like, "We're still on that? Really? Okay."
This is, yeah, that's why, I will say, for me, leaving Orlando was my best thing because that forced me to do the reset button and save up money to move to where we were talking about before, which is Detroit. I was
Yes.
hoping, next month. I don't know if it's, well, I don't. It's definitely not going to be towards the beginning of the month because, like, I'm
Right.
not, unless for some reason I find a way to get someone wealthy. Sugar daddies, I will gladly
Hey,
take
Detroit,
money.
Sugar Daddy's in Detroit, right here, right there. Hit her up. I'll send out the call to all the daddies I used to know out there.
Yes, work. So, where are you originally from?
I'm actually originally from Minneapolis, so that's how I have settled back here now. Years later, it's a Minnesota thing. Like you leave and then you come back and just stay here till you die. And I'm like, I got to go again though. I'm trying not to get stuck here this time.
Yeah, that's why I'm moving. So, as I said, with Detroit, there is no failing for me in Detroit. Like,
Right.
I'm originally from South Florida. I'm in South Florida now. It ain't it. It's never been it. Because people, when they think of South Florida, they think Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Like, I'm an hour and a half to 2 hours away from any of that. So, like,
Yeah. It's like further south from that, right?
I'm north of that. So, like, I'm
Okay.
in the,
Okay. North of it. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
I would say because if you're going south, you're getting into where like you don't have land. You're just in the water and like swampland.
But yeah, it's just, it's never, that's why I ran away to Orlando. I think it was, I turned 20 years old. I was almost 21. And I'm like, I have to get the fuck out of here. Like, I just, I had to. And I remember having a conversation with my aunt, and she said, "I thought you were never gonna leave." And I said, "But I had to.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna.
Right.
I wasn't gonna discover myself. I wouldn't have been the fabulous person you see in front of you if I had
Yeah.
stayed here. I had to find myself become very brazened and emboldened, and honestly, not care what people say. That's in truth. That's why I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm I in some ways I am not bookable around here because I dare to sing live. I I
Yes.
write I write my own music. So like all stuff and these queens that are I no. I have to say this. I love my drag sister. My drag sister's from around here. I love her. All the rest of them old ass bitches that literally lip sync, lip sync, lip sync. I'm like, that's why I feel they're threatened by me because it's like, oh, you can do your 1-2 numbers. I can do 45 minutes to an hour.
But who wants that? Honestly, I've seen two drag queens at Duo Act do like a 45-minute concert of the Calloway sisters, and like, god damn, it was boring. Like, it's great for like 7 minutes, and it's like, oh my god, they're doing. Oh, we're here, kids. This is it. Like half the show left.
But that's a lip sync artist. If I'm
Right.
actually singing live, it's like, come on. Because my thing is, especially, I might be doing a Twitch stream uh Sunday morning. Hopefully I will. So if you ever see it, I very much I perform in my living room like I'm at Madison Square Garden, meaning like I sit there with the headset mic and and I like scream monologues and do all that because I'm out of my fucking mind. But it's like I do it
Aren't
and
we all?
I don't care. Like
Good.
yeah,
And that's like, yeah, I love that.
I mean
I've come to really appreciate living room performance venues. Like the first show, like the day like the world shut down in 2021, like I was supposed to be at a show, and like the host was like, let's just go film in my living room. It's pretty. And so we put on this big show in front of a fireplace online for like 3 audience members. It was great.
yeah.
But it was so much fun. It was like we just had a great like party. Like everybody did wild, crazy things in their living room.
And plus there's something about when you love it and you're working on it and when especially you don't treat it like a rehearsal because some people are like in their living room and they treat it like a rehearsal. I treat everything, even I'm the person who says at sound check, I am singing just as passionately at sound check as I am when I perform because,
Hmm.
and the thing is, well, okay, you know this being a singer, like when you've done it enough, because my background is literally I was the choir kid growing up. That's actually my next question of what was it like for you growing up. Anyway, it was like I was the choir kid, but I was always the one, even in high school. I remember being with my best friend in the corner, like when we had time, when we weren't like doing choir stuff, we just had time, and I'm like singing him this new song I wrote, and I'm like, and this is my idea, and I want to set this shit on fire, and I want to do
I love
because
that. Yes.
yeah, I do.
Your
I want to
creative spirit coming out.
yeah, because I was never meant for that classical style. I'm not a show pony, and like I'm proud of not being a show pony. It's like
Right.
so. Anyway, now that I answered that question, what was it like for you growing up as a kid?
Um, I was a unexpected last child, considerably a few years after my siblings. So like they were almost out of the house, and my parents very quickly got divorced after I was born. So I was raised by my mom, who is great. I love her. She was actually just here yesterday and is coming over tonight after I get off the call with you.
Yes.
But I always wanted to be an actor. Like even like my parents tell stories all the time about like when I was 2 or 3, I like would get up on tables at restaurants and perform full like Disney movies or like charity church mouse, the church thing they like made me obsessed with. And I like knew always, I was like, there's nothing for me but performing. And like my dad would always be like, well, you're never going to be famous. You're never going to be rich. And I was like, I didn't say I want to be rich and famous. I want to be performing. And like, it's changed a lot throughout the years, but here I am now. But yeah, I did community theater like through my tween and teen years. And then I went to a performing arts high school. And then from there, I ran off to New York and tried the dream and I hated it. I immediately was like, oh no, this is not my dream.
Ooh, that's so. Well, here's my thing with New York. I would love to live there. I could never afford it, but like I would love to live in New York.
And I would love to. I loved living in New York, but like the actor thing, it like hit me. I was like, it's not. I don't want to be an actor, but didn't know there was other options yet at that point. Like coming, just getting out of high school is like an actor is the thing you do if you want to be on a stage. And then through adult life, I found burlesque and circus, and they were like, you can get naked and be weird and do whatever the fuck you want. And I'm like, yes, that's what I want.
See, it's also so okay. Let's put it this way. I'm not gonna say this much. You're slightly older than I am, so like
Fair. Yep.
so even as I tell people growing up as a kid, well, clearly I didn't know I wanted to be. I say I found drag on accident, so it's like, but as a performer, it's like until Lady Gaga came out, there wasn't necessarily a weirdo musician
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you had Britney. Britney was pretty. You had Christina. Christina was pretty in the voice. I love Christina. She's one of my inspirations. But like there was not a weirdo, and it's like when I
Yeah. Well,
started,
there's a big gap, just like like from like after Boy George and like Ziggy Stardust and stuff, and like
yeah,
it like just kind of like stopped. And I mean, yeah, there's a big gap there, and you're right. Pop music really kind of tried to stop the weird. I think they're like, no, 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 we're all going streamlined. And then I do always love Christina for her ex Tina phase. I'm like, thank God, at least somebody was like, no, I'm at least gonna keep it a little weird and like slutty.
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Even as I say, as a musician, like starting as a drag queen when I started, like luckily there were queens like Adore Delano who had kind of come before me, like a little bit, but it's like even to this day, there's people who make drag music. I don't make drag music. I don't want to say mainstream stuff either. I make electronic music, but I put my heart and soul into everything. And I talk about rebelling against the Catholic Church. I was raised as a kid in the Catholic Church, and like that wound up being problematic with my coming out. We're getting into that question, but it's like once I came out of that and I started just like going balls to the wall. I actually had a conversation with one of my fans earlier today, and he was telling me, he's like, I love the fact that you're not afraid to express your opinion, because he saw I did this on X yesterday. I was watching a expose on Richard Simmons, and it was the fact that he was treated as a court jester, and it was problematic because I understand that, because there were plenty of times starting out in the straight bar, nobody took me seriously.
Yeah.
Well, patrons didn't take me seriously. Musicians got it. Like musicians will
Right.
always be the ones to get it, and they're like, I love what you do and it's so creative. But people would see me as a court jester, and I am now very embracing to be the person to say, like, fuck you. I am not going to be a court jester, and if you want me to come in as a court jester, don't fucking book me. Because I am I'm the person who's like, to that thing you said about fame.
Yeah.
I have no desire to be famous.
Right.
I have no desire to live in LA. It's all a toxic, like, I consider LA the, like, garbage dump of the United States, because it's like that's where you literally dump all this you dump talent, meaning you put people there who I'm like, Bevy, you just because you can hit a few falsetto notes doesn't mean that you can actually sing, bitch. Like,
Yeah.
it
When
means
and you're right, and yeah, my friends who have moved to LA, like most of them very quickly leave because they're like, it's just so much about the facade and the image and not at all about actually being able to fulfill what you are it's about how you promise it, not what you're able to do like after you do that. And they're like, I don't know, it just felt like I didn't have to be good at anything, I just had to be able to sell myself. And it's like, yeah, I don't like LA. I dated a guy, and so he flew. I like went out there a lot over the year we were dating. It's just like every time I get to the city, I was like, I just hate it here. I just. He's like, why? And I was like, I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't like. I'm just unhappy as soon as I get into LAX.
see, I thought I was gonna move there at one point, like doing this podcast, because I thought
Right. It's where
during
podcasts go. Yep.
well, my thing was during the beginning, I couldn't book people in Florida, so I'm like, let me go try booking people in LA, and that ended up working out for me. And then all of a sudden, once I booked people in LA, people in Florida were paying attention to me. So it's
Yeah.
like, but my thing is, I'm like, bitch, you're gonna get yourself kicked out of every party in 3 days. Cause I'm not gonna be the person who's like, oh my god, babe, you did amazing. I love that for you. Work. I'm gonna be like, who the fuck told you could go on stage? Like, who the fuck told you had talent? Like, no. No, just and everyone I see people get hyped up in LA who have no talent by people who have talent. I'm like, have you all been drinking the Kool-Aid that much? Like for real? Like, yes. There's some people I look at, it's like in LA, I don't know. This is not a thing in other parts of the country, but in LA, it's every go-go boy thinks that they can be a rapper. I'm
Right.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Or it's gonna be like the next
No.
Channing Tatum. And it's like you're probably the rule, not the exception to the rule. Like.
And it's for me, it's like, why? Because I know this. I know talented people. I prop up talented people. I've also had to I've propped people up on here before, and then I've wanted to invite them back, and I've heard their new song and realized they have no talent, and they didn't get the invite back.
Right.
And I
And then you
continue
wait
to
for the next
bash
song to
them
see, like, was that just a fluke or was the first one a fluke? Let's see what happens.
because my thing was there was just someone I had been a fan of for years, and they were talking about how they were an amazing singer, and I'm like, and then they came out with their new single, and I'm like, Auto Tune City.
Uh,
That means on a 2.5 minute song, Auto Tune City, that means you can't sing.
yeah.
If I understand vocal effects, this is not a vocal effect. This is the producer having to sit there and melodyne your voice because you weren't able to hit the notes.
Right. Or like you have such a like vibrato or a waver over it. They're
Yeah.
like, we're just gonna flatten press that all into one note. And it's uh, like let people have personality in their voices. Let it live out there. Like,
See, I will say this: when I moved to Detroit, I will say this. I went to school for audio engineering and music production. Vocals are not my strength. So that's why I want to work with somebody. I'm basically gonna
mhm.
hand them a beat, and I'm gonna be like, I've already written this. Let's work on the vocals. Like, and if they try and auto tune my voice, I will be the bitch to throw a fit
Yeah.
because it's like, don't you dare. If it takes me, because this is the thing, I'm a singer. I can. This was my projection. I hear some people
Yeah.
take 6, 7 months to put out an album. I don't know. I can't see why somebody can't make an album in 2 months. I honestly think I can do it. If I have the
Yeah.
money to like do it, when you've already written the songs,
And especially if you have the music done too, like the instrumentation, like how the band's gonna split out, like yeah, that's
yeah,
I also get like yeah, once you're ready to go into production, like I don't have experience in like the music industry side, but like I
right.
also don't know what the delay is there.
Because some people don't have the money or they want to feature with three. They want to feature with all these artists. I'm like, forget the features. This is my story. If I want to do a remix, I'll say like, listen, let's just save this song. I'll do it later. I'll hit up the person. Like, they don't need to be in the main version of the song. The main version of the song is all me.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what was it like for you coming out?
So it was really uh privileged is honestly the way I assess it. So I grew up. My dad was a former senator, state senator. Sorry, and like he was really Republican and like fought against the arts in Minnesota. And so like when I go into schools and like as I go into middle school and high school, like everybody already knew who I was from my siblings, my dad, and they were very like ready to presume what I was going to be, which was another stuck up, straight, cisgendered white kid raised by their politician, nepo baby, essentially.
Yeah.
And like my parents, their way they raised me backfired because they were really big on like be strong, be vocal, like stand up for who you are and what you are, like what you believe in. Not realizing that I didn't believe in what they believed in, and I wasn't who they thought they were had made. And so I was like, you know what, that is great advice. And so I came out when I was 12. Well, I stopped hiding that I liked boys at 12, and then I officially like said the words when I was 14. And it like for my mom actually had asked me when I was 13 if I was gay, and I got so mad. I was like, how dare you call me gay, mom? That's awful. Like stormed out. But like my dad and I, he did not deal with it well. He tried to forcibly take me to therapy, like conversion therapy. So I went and I emancipated myself out of that. And I was like, it's not the space, it's not the family for me. But that really, all it did was keep motivating me to be like, okay, well then if this isn't the space and these aren't the people who are going to support me, like I'm going to create that for myself. So that's where like applying for the arts high school was not approved by my parents, and I had to like fight with the school board to get like that approval in there. And then from there, I was like, well, the only place I think I would go is New York. And so like every day of high school was like, how do I get to New York next? Like, how is that the thing I do right after I graduate? So it was really like being an adult guy and having gone through therapy, looking back, like it was really lonely and it was really scary, but I didn't see that in the moment.
Right.
But like it also made me like who I am, or like I'm fully capable and like ready and strong to like to support myself in any way, like and under any circumstances that I've had to. And like I was homeless for a while, both in Minneapolis and in New York. I did some like stayed at homeless youth shelters, and you do the
Wow.
grinder couch hopping to just at least not be on the street when it's raining. But like I'm very grateful for all those experiences because it's the same thing. Like it makes me compassionate to people who are struggling as young artists, and it also makes me really grateful for every little step forward I get to make with my art and my career.
See, that's crazy. Okay, so I'm
I
just
know
trying.
people are, especially like with where I'm at now, like everyone's like, no way. And it's like, well, I mean, I'm older than you think I am. Like, this is a very nice, like, lots of preservative foods as a kid, apparently.
Well, believe me, people think I'm younger than I actually
I
am.
actually thought you were younger too. I was like, oh, okay, like, but yeah, I could
Yeah.
definitely use. Yeah, I see.
Yes. So okay, this is where I didn't finish college, so I'm gonna try and do a little bit of math. So theoretically, you came out in the '90s, and I was
Uh, just right around the millennium, just
okay,
early on. Yeah.
okay, okay. I told you all I didn't finish college. But it's like that must have been an insane time to
it
come
it
out.
was, and it was this weird generation of like it's looking now like with my queer nephews and nibblings, like and seeing like the freedom that they feel to come out at like 10 and 11, 12, and start being like, I don't understand the confines you're trying to teach me. Like in our generation, it was really more so like it felt like I don't understand why this is dangerous. The way like coming out of the 80s and the 90s and like the AIDS
Yeah.
crisis and the homophobia, like that was really kind of starting to settle a little bit. And like, so like me and my friends coming up, we were like, well, especially because we're coming out of that, like we have to be vocal about who we are. Like we have to start making this noise now because if we wait till we're 18 adults, like it's going to be, so we aren't going to know how to go into the fight. So we wanted to be ready for the fight before we were ready to be part of it as adults. So I have really strong, great support. My five best girlfriends in high school are all now trans men. And I'm like, I love it
Oh,
so much. And they're like, oh, like they didn't tell each other as it was happening, but I knew each of them started their transitions and like
yeah.
post college. And it was like, oh, you guys don't even know, but you're all guys. And it's great.
See, mine was okay. So I always tell people I had the dual coming out. So like I had the good. Well, okay. I had it somewhat easy because I only had to come out to one parent because I came out 4 months after my mom died. So I was only having to come out to my dad, and then I have an older sister who my older sister just want to say last year in November just came out herself. So I mean, like, I was like, I was in some ways I felt like when I was very accepting, but I also felt like saying you're welcome, bitch. Like I paved the fucking
Right.
road. So
And
that
she knows
was
it. I'm sure she knows it. Or she's just like, damn it, she stole my spotlight. I'll wait a decade or two and then make it really
yeah.
important. Make it fun.
But it's like that was the easy part. My family overall, the person who I honestly like, the first person I came out to was actually crazily enough, it was my best friend. We actually came out to each other and like we're yeah,
That's so
we're
cute. Oh,
I know. I know. We're still friends today. Hopefully I get to see him this week cuz he's like we never get to see each other. I'm like I'm busy, bitch. I host a
right.
fucking podcast, sorry.
You want to
Like
a job running my microphone or something? Then we can see each other.
yeah. So that was that side. So I came out to a youth minister at the church, which is a mistake
Yeah,
because I told him about this performance idea I had with a knife and how I'd practiced stabbing myself. Because I'm dramatic. Absolutely.
of
And
course. Too far,
like,
probably, but that's okay.
yeah. And like he left the room. He came back in about 10 minutes later. He said, okay, you have one of two options. Either you're coming with me or I'm calling the cops. Now, in hindsight, 2020, I would have let him call the cops because the cops wouldn't have done the damn thing to me.
Right. And so
So,
you grew up in Florida, yeah. Especially like,
yeah.
and I'm sure I have like a skewed outside American perspective of Florida, but I'm like, oh my god, that sounds like death, like death row coming.
Yeah, so he took me to get a psych eval at a
Yeah,
hospital, which they had told me I had passed, and I don't know why because I answered all the questions correctly, but I remember being on the phone with my dad. I'm like, "Yeah, come back here and get me. Like, I'm all good." And then a cop yelled at me. He's like, "Get off the phone!" I'm thinking, like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I'm just over here minding my own business, and then they shoved me in a hospital room, and for 5 hours didn't tell me anything. They just let the day go to night, and then at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So I was brought in on a Friday, and 2 o'clock on Saturday morning, they told me I had been Baker acted, which is when they put you on a suicide hold.
yeah,
I was transported from the hospital to a behavioral clinic where I got stripped away of every freedom
yeah.
that everyone has. And it took me a while because I was brought in on a weekend, and like the weekend psychiatrist kind of was like fighting me because he said things like when I went into a session with him, he's like, playing with knives is dangerous. So I'm like, I know. I knew what I was doing. I wasn't trying to like actually harm myself. I was just being creative.
Right.
And then the weekend rolled on, and the weekday psychiatrist had one session with me, and after that, he's like, "You're free to go. Like, there's no reason for you to be here." And then once I got out, the weekend later, a priest and the youth minister trapped me in a room where they set me up with a therapist
Yeah.
who tried to pray the gay away.
Yeah. So that therapy role, that's what my dad started doing for his church
Yep.
after I came out. Because he was like, well, I can't save you, so I'll start saving everyone else. And so he became, and I will say, I to jump forward, he has come around. He's come to Jesus, his Jesus word. With my stepmom was a really big component of that, where she was like, I can't understand why you would choose beliefs that you're choosing to interpret the way you interpret them over keeping your family, which you know is exactly what your religion says you're supposed to have. And like, where is this? Like, and she was really good at making him stop and have to question his own contradictions within his Christianity. And so
Yeah.
that has helped a lot. And like, we're not close, but it's nice to have somebody who like I can make gay jokes and he actually laughs at he made a gay joke. It was so funny too. It's a good one. It's like, all right, dad, like, all right. But yeah, it was a very, very long and like a decade of my life where I just literally didn't speak to him once for 10 years. It's just, he didn't exist. I didn't have a dad. People would ask like, oh, what's your dad? I was like, I don't have one. We don't talk about that. It's over.
We'll see. That's why. What was it when people say like when people talk about having a mom and like me not having a mom? It's like, listen. Sometimes I am very grateful that my mom is dead. Like, in terms of me, like comedically, it helped. It helped out. Like,
I mean, it's dark, but it's true. It's something I
yeah,
tried. My friend's like going through a breakup, and he's like, "I'm so mad about it." I was like, "Yeah, but like, try to find a wing, like a silver lining. Like, you can write a great stand up about this boyfriend because he was crazy." And he's like, "He wasn't crazy." And I was like, "He's crazy, dude. You're breaking up. Admit that he's crazy." But yeah, like, find the joy in the dark. I love that.
yeah. It's like my mom will never have an opinion on a man that I don't have with it. Even if she wants to text me, I don't fuck with Ouija boards. So I mean, like,
Just have to throw some spirit
yes,
energies at me and
it's like honestly, it's like I don't. That's listen. My thing is with that. That's your license to like. I remember joking all the time. I joke with my best friend all the time about being raised by gypsies. It's not true at all, but like it's like what's my mom gonna do? She's dead. She gonna get offended? Like
right. And if she is great, I'd love to hear about it at the end of my pass. Like,
yeah,
we'll
yeah.
have something to talk about.
And plus part of the way I got my humor was from my mom because my mom was the one who, let's put it this way. This is why my mom, clearly my mom never found out I came out, but it's like, it's almost like in some ways, if she didn't want me to be gay, she pretty much like laid the red carpet out because my mom was the one who introduced me to Joan Rivers.
Oh yeah. Well, and
Like,
it's like moms always like, not to be like the cliche, but like moms always know, but like especially like my mom started taking me to gay. Like, we left the family church and started going to like a queer church in Minneapolis, and like she took me and my friends to Pride when I was 13, the summer before I actually had come out to the family or anything. And like my friends were like, your family knows you're gay, right? I was like, no, they don't. They're like, we're at Pride, dude. Your mom knows you're gay. It's like, no, she can't know. I just, it's my own self denial. But like, it is one of those things. Like, my mom never needed anything. She never had to question or ask. She just was like, okay, I'm just gonna. This is the vibe I feel, and I'm gonna be happy with it, and let you
yeah.
like go down that path.
Yeah, I mean, she just saw your Liberace poster and thought you loved music. No,
You're not far off. I did play piano. I was a big piano player as a kid, so Liberace was definitely one thing I knew about. It's like that. Yes.
well, see, my thing is, my mom was the one who also introduced me to Madonna. So I mean,
Oh yeah.
come on. Granted, it was okay. So, as I always say, it was like 80s Madonna to like early 90s Madonna, and then she skipped the erotica era because she said she didn't
Right.
like it. She said she didn't like it. In my opinion, I just feel like she thought it was inappropriate for me to
I
learn
mean,
about it
right.
at
She's like,
12 years
we'll
old.
we'll we'll talk about how much I love that when you're older. It's like, yeah. She's like, oh, it's not good. Don't listen to it. It's just awful. Like,
No, yeah, that was why. What was it? I remember she had taped the Drowned World Tour when it was on HBO, and she's like had these like tape boxes, and she's like, or she had like these recorded tapes. She's like, "Don't watch this." And literally, I remember one time, I think I was 11. She like left the house, and I just popped it in the tape player when she was gone, and just watched the whole thing. And rewound it
so
back to the beginning. It's like,
it's so cliche, but those are so gay because it's like it's like you're seeking your parents' porn you know about, but it's
yeah,
Madonna,
yeah.
and it
It's
is
like
a little bit porn too. It's great.
there was actually on that tour there was porn. So there was like,
I know. I was like, that's like it kind of is actually seeking porn, but you had to have a gay diva to do it.
yeah, there was Japanese like anime porn. I remember that. That was one of the things. But anyway, yes. So that was me. I always say like my coming out. My coming out was sort of like, actually, this is what made me an artist. My coming out sort of was, I say, the start of my downward spiral because like in the time between 18 and 25, I was suicidal twice. I got uh, I lost my virginity by being raped, and I was sexually assaulted. So I'm like, all of that kind of stuff, which people have a fear about putting out, I put it into this album. I'm like, for me, I'm like, let me just put it in your face and tell you all of my life experiences because I don't want to be the person who puts on a front. And that's why my fans love me because I'm unapologetically honest and I just say what happens in my life and say my opinions because I'm not afraid
Yeah.
to be real.
And that courage that you put out there, I mean, it allows not just letting people know they're in a safe space, it like
Yeah.
aggressively puts it out there like I've made this a safe space. Like I'm not afraid to share these hurts and these truths about myself. Like you should feel free to do that about yourself. I'm really big on that, and like, or like friends will like be telling me like things that happen. I'm like, okay, but like take off your filter. What actually happened? Like what was actually going on? What were you actually trying to do there? And they're like, what? It's like just like be your inner thought with me real quick. I won't judge you. I'm not going to think you're selfish or whatever. Like, what was it you were, like you're trying to like cheat on your boyfriend or something. I don't know. That has to do with the boyfriend breaking up last night, and there's so much
That's
drama. Oh my God. There's like 3 hours of listening to him bitch, and then it's like, yeah, but you cheated on him too. And it's like, I know. And it's like, okay. Okay, as long as you know, like
see,
gay drama. It's all the same.
I will say this, like, speaking of this, like, of ex-boyfriends, my last, like, breakup, it's why I hadn't dated in a while. My last breakup was tragic because I ended up with somebody who I found out as we were breaking up was racist. And I'm like,
Oh.
I love that for you. And like,
I love that I won't be part of that with you either.
no, because his thing was as he broke up with me, he said he screamed this. I lived in the hood when I lived in Orlando, and he screamed with my front door open in my predominantly black neighborhood. He said, "All you ever want is that N-word dick." And I'm thinking, can somebody come shoot this motherfucker, please? I will literally defend you. I will defend you. I'll be like, he ran into your bullet. It
It's
was
gay
not your
panic. It
fault.
was the gay panic defense. Actually, she's just
Yeah.
missed. You got the wrong person. I don't know. Oh my gosh, that's so just so small. Like Minnesota, there's a lot of that, and like Minneapolis is changing. I don't know. It's like I have a really, growing up in a very privileged like family, and who
Yeah.
very much touted that they weren't, and like, oh, colorblind, and then I transferred before the arts high school. I transferred to like the lower income high school of the district, and like went from an almost entirely white school to less than 30% white kids, and like really quickly was like thrown into like gerrymandering and redline districts and being like, oh, like they're keeping us apart, like aggressively working to keep all the white kids at the one school and all the rest of the people of color and the people of the poor neighborhoods
Yeah.
at the other high school. And so it was a really great like confirmation of like, oh, they are against us. They do want us fighting. They're setting up systems to make sure we can't you be honest, connected people together. And that's I think it's important to like speak your truth, make it safe spaces, like share dark things that you don't think people want to talk about because
Yeah.
so many more people have been through it. Like I was raped in college. It was one of the experiences that really like made me question, do I actually want to go into burlesque and sex work and anything like related to that? Because it was through a client that it happened. And it's like I share that with a lot of just young performers too. I'm like, I'm not telling this to scare you. I'm telling this so you can like be aware that like even though you think you got yourself guarded, you can find yourself backstage in the locked room out of nowhere in like a split second.
Hmm. Okay, and let's just say this to everybody out there. If you're gay and you have not thought about doing sex work or selling drugs, congrats, motherfucker, you were rich.
Right. And also like thank all of your fucking gay history ancestors going back to like the daughters of Tennessee down in New Orleans in the 40s. Like they put out a lot of hard work and lives for you. Good for you. And I'm happy that you have that life and that future.
Because, I mean, there were plenty of times. This is when some people are like, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this goes to sex work. We're going to get into your performing history in a minute. It's like,
I mean, it's a near job. You know, burlesque is legally considered sex work still.
well, my thing is with all of it, this is how my view has always been. This isn't my view today. I am not actively looking for people to pay me. However, if you're going to offer me money, I'm going to fucking take it. Like,
Yeah, you know, I'm not dumb. I would like money, thank you.
yeah,
And I don't have the high ground to walk on. I let guys do that shit for free. Why would I not get paid for it? Like,
yeah. And some people are like, ew, I could never date somebody who does that. Oh, it's like, okay, bitch. Like, this is my thing with all of that. Newsflash, if you've ever been in a gay bar, you've been with someone you've been in an area where somebody has done sex work in some way.
I mean, you're probably on a seat where sex work has happened.
Because, I mean, let's get real. Now, the difference is you have to know the difference between the trappers and the go-go boys. Because they're working in the same bars.
Right.
One of them is going to like you treating them one way, and one of them is going to want to sock you in the face.
Yeah.
You got to know your difference. So my message is treat everybody with respect until you find out exactly what they want. If somebody's like purposely leaning their ass out so that you can grab onto it, go ahead. If they're not,
Right. Yeah. It goes in, and it's funny because like, especially the younger kids, the younger performers that I interact with, they're like, but like, it's not like immediate and direct verbal consent. And I'm like, right, like there's a level of trust and like, but if you're presenting it in a public space and knowingly like putting it in an area and a location that it can be physically interacted with, like that is a level of nonverbal consent that you're putting out there. And like, they're not ignorant of that consent that they're offering.
So, okay.
Okay. Off of sex, we're gone to stripping.
No, we're gonna
Let's get back to church.
Yes. So, okay. So, what made you want to become a circlesque performer?
Ooh, so when I left New York with my business partner, my ex-husband, let's be realized, we'll throw this out real fast, just brush over it. We are artistic soulmates, and it took a long time for us to see that reality, and we like made the mistakes of like getting married, trying to like be partners where we are not compatible in that way, and we did not see it because we're so compatible as artists. And like I love owning a business with him and I love creating with him, but I never, ever, ever want to like be emotionally available to him again.
Right.
Not somewhere I want to be. So so through that we came back to Minneapolis, and they had a drag career in Toledo and Detroit before we had met, and they were like, "Well, I'm going to get back into drag now in Minneapolis. There's a big scene," and so they asked if I wanted to like learn and start doing drag. I was kind of like, "Not really, but I do want to be on a stage." So we did Wicked. Was my first time ever doing drag. Was with Glinda. Very basic, I know. But I was like, oh, I do love this. And then I started kind of dabbling in drag as a solo artist. And what I wanted to like do to be unique is I would strip out of drag and end as a boy, like in a thong or boxers, and like put on a harness, and like I go from like super femme to super mask with it. Well, I mean twink mask. Let's be honest, super mask as a twink. And the whole time doing that, I was like, I like this, but I don't love it, and I hated getting ready for drag. Like, I just hated going in and drag. It just wasn't. It's too much time. It's too much work, talking and tights, and it's just like I don't want all of this to just take it off and feel sexy again. Like, and one of my friends was like, well, you could just go out there as a boy. And I was like, shut up, no, you couldn't. And they're like, yes, you could. And so Jorge Sanchez, love you. Thank you so much for giving me the epiphany of like I could just go be me. And so that's where burlesque kind of fell into my life. And like I started looking into Dita Von Teese was starting to take off. She had just been on like Girls Next Door. And so I was like, I know who burlesque performer is. So I looked her up and started like following her career and educating myself in that. And then circus comes. So there's where burlesque happens. And that's the start of my career, which led to this. And so
Yeah.
circus kind of slid in where I was seeing and meeting more and more people in the Twin Cities. Minneapolis is a very big circus town. Historically, the circuses from New York used to come here and they'd end, build a new show, and take that back to New York. So, like, Minneapolis is where they'd
Oh
live for a
wow.
summer. Every year, they'd be circus people for 3 months living in the city. So,
Yes.
there's a lot. It's a place that has a lot of history and a lot of like love for that. Like, just express yourself, find your weird physical skill, find that thing that nobody else can do, and build it into something that you can't look away from. So like I always wanted to do circus, and I had like some dance skills that I could kind of craft into. And then we met Midnight Water Fairy, our contortionists, our aerialists, and they like really kind of were like, well, just do it. And so then like within less than a month of meeting them, we went into Can Wonderland to like just speak with the producers. They were looking to bring in a new artistic team to like start putting on productions. And like Martina and I walked into the space, and we literally stopped and we're like, we're pitching the circus because we kind of been like for years we've been talking about. We're like, when it's right, it'll be right. And like that moment was right. And so that was
Yes.
8, oh my gosh, 8 years ago now, almost. August will be 8 years of running that circus.
Oh wow.
Um, and it's just been like we found people who were early on in their educations, but really established performers. So, like they had been acting as community theater, or they were burlesque performers learning circus skills. And we kind of like built our little family of our cast members, and we've all been pushing each other to get better at your circus skills while we bring our like naturally gifted performances into that. So like I'm really big on like whatever you're best at, like the other pieces you can bring with. Like you don't have to be the best at everything you do when you start. You can learn and improve as long as you have one thing that like really gives you the drive and the love and brings the
Right.
audience to drive and love you as well.
Yes. Okay. So here's the points I'm going to say before I get into this question. So, like, okay, point number one, you're talking about marrying somebody who's an entertainer. Listen, if you're going to be an entertainer, you have to be with somebody who's secure enough to, like, not have a problem with somewhat dimming their light when you perform. And
Yeah,
that's honestly a challenge for a lot of people because a lot of performers are focused on themselves and don't know how to get into a space like this because this is always how I say to people. I do this because I want to lift people up. I am not in competition with anybody.
yeah,
And the minute you feel like, "Oh, I'm in competition with that bitch. I'm in competition with that bitch. I can't do anything with them." No, we're all trying to get to the same goal. We all want people to come see us perform. So let's work together and bring audiences together.
yeah.
That's
I love that. And that's how like Martina and I and our company that we run here, like that's really what we push when we push, and we're big on like we push through like the like kind of I don't want to say clicks. Minneapolis isn't like that bad, but like really, the cliques of the communities who are like, well, this show only performs with these performers, and like we're the ones who came in. We're like everybody from everybody's productions like pop in it with us, and they're like, oh my god, I've
Yeah.
never worked with the other three people in your show, but I've known them for years, and we're like, I know that's our goal because we also want like audiences to get tastes of everything they don't get to see other places. And
Yes.
and you're right. I ringmaster the circus. It's a very lead, front and center role, but at the end of the day, like as far as performing goes, like I don't have that many skills. I just use my mouth really well. Like, come on, that's all I really do at the circus. Is I talk,
Yeah.
I sing, and then I get a little naked. But I'm there to
Yeah.
like excite the audience, and like I like literally am actually fanboying at the side of the stage every night with the audience, like jumping, like they're bending the right way, or like that aerial trick's so good because I genuinely love seeing them succeed, and I want to hype the audience of like I hope you will realize like how incredible you're getting to see these performers become.
Yes. And okay,
So
to the
that
drag.
was where our marriage works very well. Is that I've always been a character actor, so I knew when to like. All right, like he's much more talented and much more leading, and that's why I
Yeah.
loved him. He's a very talented leading man type, and it's like, yes, sir, thank you. And then that's the other thing. The sexual like attraction really blinded both of us for a long time, and they were like, oh, I don't really like who you are in a relationship. We have really different
Yeah.
boundaries and moral approaches to how you should treat your partner, but the sexuality was there, so we were like, well, whatever. I can deal with being upset a little bit.
Yes. To
Which anyone listening, no, you can't. Just break up and be friends. It's so much easier. If you're
yeah.
not actually happy, just be truthful and like
Of
end it
course.
now. It'll be so much better.
Of course. Okay.
Sorry,
The drag.
I have to do that every time it comes up. I'm like I tell everyone like just break up with your boyfriend if you want to. Like just do it. I'm not trying to end your relationship, but like don't be unhappy.
Yeah. Yes. Speak your truth, babe. And to the drag point, most drag queens aren't as lucky as I am because I pretty much. So in terms of what I wear, I don't usually wear these sunglasses. These are my
I was gonna say they're cute.
inter.
I like them
Thank
though.
you. Thank you. These are my interview glasses. I got these in a brand deal. But like, and when I started as a performer, and to this day, the sunglasses I wear when I perform, they're a pair of Ray Bans. I actually have a few pair of them now that my dad just gave me. So they were my mom's. So like, I always take her energy with me, and it's like
Yep.
so. So becoming the sunglass queen, when it usually takes most drag queens 2 to 4 hours to get ready, I don't have to.
Yep.
I don't have to do eyes. It takes
Yeah,
me
you take
half
like
an
that's a
hour.
good like hour. That's a good minimum of an hour with the eyes, especially if you're only doing like one color. Like,
Yeah, half an hour to 45 minutes is how long it takes me to get ready. So like,
nice.
so it's like with that, it's like, and granted, my thing is I don't talk. It's like personally, yes, I understand. I wear no clothes. It's like if I'm singing live, I'm already uncomfortable enough as it is being in drag. I don't need to make myself even more uncomfortable when I'm trying to sing. So it's like,
Right. Oh my god, the number of times I've gone on stage in a corset for a song, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" Oh no, I'm about to sing in a corset. I'm like, I wish I had thought about that sooner. No. Good for you. Yeah, I love that.
yes. So okay, so my start, as we said before, in the open mic scene, I remember. So like for for like a few months, I performed as like my boy self, and then somebody's like, "Man, when you're just on stage, you get into it." And I'm like, "Well, I have an idea for this and that and that." And it took literally it was this straight dude who's like telling me, he's like, "Well, why don't you just do it?" And I'm like, "Okay." And I did it. Audiences, as musicians, loved me. Younger people liked me. Older people never really got what I do. I would still say that to this day, but it's like trust. As I say, this is why I like long form. It's like you give me an hour, trust. Yes, I'll do some upbeat songs, of course, but it's like when I get a chance to pull out that stool, sit on a chair, and just hold a microphone, and it'll all make sense.
Yep. I
And
love
that's what
that. Yeah.
and that's why I love
And
long
think,
form. And it also gives me a chance to like for me, I hate just doing covers. It's like if you give me enough time, it's like I'd love to do if even if I have to do a short show, it's like give me a chance to do 4 songs. So it's like I could front load this show with originals and I backload the show with covers to get people to sing. It's like that's the easiest way. Like give me a mix because I love doing the covers, but it's like
yeah.
I'd love to
No,
prove to you that I'm more than just like a Madonna, Britney, Christina, Gaga person. It's like I can do my stuff too, and when I do my stuff, it's insane. Like
I
especially
mean,
how
I like already am fully playing. I like, I started grabbing like bookmarking some of your things, and I'm like, I want to make sure I watch this after our thing. And now I'm like,
yeah,
okay, now I know what to really go digging for. But I
yeah,
love that too. Like that's how I big I'm in. Like and like with the circus, it's usually like our future goal, like the next big change we're trying to do is we want to do like not necessarily like Cirque du Soleil level of original music, but we want to like find a house band and like start doing original music for acts so people don't have to find a pop song to do their skill to or a cover to sing. And like we often also bring like local pop artists or like R&B musicians from around the Minneapolis music scene in to do like, hey, do a 15-minute set in between the two rounds of the circus. And like that's always a great experience to get like their original music and like this local
yeah.
celebrity or like radio, persona doing their music as well to give you this like mix of like, yeah, you've gotten a lot of covers or songs while the circus was going, and then now you get some really original, great singing, and then we'll go back to the circus.
And it's a lot of it. I mean, granted, I have seen some amazing acts. That's what I loved about the open mic days.
Yeah,
I saw some amazing acts. I saw some shitty acts, but I also saw
but
some.
even those, if they're in it, if they're feeling it, and they're not, it's not. They don't need to be good. It's still an amazing. Like I love those moments where it's people who are like, I know I have no skill, but I'm going to give you my heart. Like you're going to love my heart for it.
Well, my thing is what I was always like a standout with because I make electronic music. So
Yeah,
it's like when you've seen the fourth, usually straight white guy performing another acoustic set. To me, I like acoustic. Don't get me wrong. It's fair. It's great music. It's boring. It's boring. Like,
yeah. We had John Mayer. We're good. The world had
yeah,
their taste.
yeah. That's why my thing is like, can we get something else? It's almost like with lip syncers. It's like, especially drag queens. It's like when you've seen the third queen do a split, it's like let me come up there because this is my thing. I do everything from like pop music to when I'm covering. I'll do rap songs. I've done songs by Iggy before. I've done songs by Nicki Minaj. It's like I love getting to show people. What was it? Somebody I remember one time I competed in a competition and they're like, "Oh wow, I didn't know you could rap." I'm like, don't ever think you'll know me, darling." Like it's like I will when I need to throw a curveball, I will do it. It's like I will do if I'm in the mood to do Iggy, I will do Iggy. If I'm in the mood to do Marilyn Manson, I will do Marilyn Manson. It's like
Yeah.
I my music range is like it's depending on my mood. Sometimes I feel basic, but it's like overall it's like I listen to a vast array of stuff like much like most people will do. I'm not a huge fan of classical, just never been my forte and country it depends on
Deep
what it
country, but
is.
yeah, like deep country, I just don't, it doesn't connect to me. I get that, but yeah,
But it's like overall, and I would say untalented people in any form. Well, I shouldn't say untalented. It's when people do certain things, because there's an artist who I'm actually interviewing on Friday. His name is Sage Suede. I've interviewed him a few times on here.
Oh, I follow them. Yeah.
Oh, you actually know who that is? Yeah. I consider Sage Suede. He's my friend. I've never told him this, but I honestly feel that this is true. I feel like he's very much like a somewhat queer electronic version of like Yoko Ono, and it's like I kind of like that.
Yeah, I see it.
Because I mean, I do. I love him. We actually ended up we were like going back and forth on Twitter on Sunday, and it's like he feels a lot the way I do. As I said, I am very much anti establishment music and anti the large music industry, because what they're doing is nobody's creative anymore.
No, it's
And
it's what's the mathematical formula that has gotten the most listens.
yeah, and it's all about pushing my thing is 2.5 minute songs. No. That's why every song on my album is between 3.5 minutes to 4.5 minutes. Some of the songs, one of the song goes 5 minutes, and it's like, listen, if you don't have the attention span for this because you're constantly stuck on TikTok, if you have to, it's like go take a snack break in the middle of the song. You'll be
Right.
fine.
It's
I
like if
just
your phone moves, you take it with you. Go do something while you listen. It's you don't
yeah
have to be bored of music. Oh yeah, especially music. I love music. We talked a little bit. I've just moved. I like haven't even been watching TV since moving here. I just put on music like all the time now, and like I just like existing to music. I don't need to watch TV and like engage in that right now. I'm like it's so nice. I love music. It just gives you. I like having a soundtrack to my life. Oh my gosh, this huge truck! Sorry, right in front of my window. Give
no
us that.
not a problem. It's like my thing with that. It's also I say I have the same love for music, and I would love to say radio. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna be like, oh my gosh, I love all disc jockeys. No, my inspiration as an interviewer, actually, I have two. One of them is Howard Stern. Fucking love
Yeah.
Howard Stern, and then the other one is Wendy Williams. I'm like,
Oh,
those are
nice.
people I'd like hearing on the radio or doing radio stuff. It's like because they're not afraid to go there with people. Now, do I try and offend people in the way that they did? No. Have I crossed boundaries before? I think it's crazy when the only time I've like quote unquote crossed boundaries or gotten close to crossing boundaries is when a person didn't end up doing the interview because they got
Yeah.
offended. They got offended by my questions. I'm thinking, I'm sorry. If you're on OnlyFans, I have a right to ask you what the freakiest thing that you've done while filming is. That's my right. And you're on OnlyFans, and it's like, unless you're doing like straight up nudes, if you're doing like collaborative work, you've done some freaky shit or you've been asked to do some freaky shit, and I feel I have a right to ask you about it.
And especially like if they came in this interview because they have an OnlyFans establishment, like that's
Yeah.
the celebrity that you're here to promote. Like, what else do you think they're going to talk to you about? Like the dissertation you're writing about, like the taste of dog food? I don't know.
Yeah, it's actually had somebody cancel the day before because when this is my thing, and this is how I go about an interview and like how I've done people. I have a tendency not to give the questions to the guests
I
just to
liked
vet.
that. Honestly, I loved it. I was like, oh, thank
Yeah,
goodness, I can just talk to you. Like,
no, it's because I have a tendency to like, yes, I can hand you a script, but it's like if you say something that I can have a different angle on, I'm gonna ask you that. better than a pre-produced question. And sometimes I've had people who, there are some people, I will admit, I've had a few bad interviews. Like, I haven't had many, because some people, one of the ones, we're going back to my questions. One of the ones that shocked me was, so I interviewed, I'm just gonna say this. I interviewed I've actually interviewed both winners of Go for the Gold.
Nice, yeah.
So one of them I got along with really well. The other one did one of the shortest interviews I've ever done, because it's like they seemed timid, and I'm like, this was the part that confused me. I'm like, didn't you just win a show? Like, haven't you just been doing press for this stuff? But I feel with a lot of people as entertainers, they get people on who are like go-go dancers and like porn stars and all this stuff, and all they want to ask them about is like, so what is it like to have your dick molded into a dildo?
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. And also it's fucking exhausting.
Yeah,
It's what it's really like.
And it's like, for me, it's like, I've always wanted to humanize people and take them beyond the person that they're just like fantasizing after, and actually gets you to know the person. And a lot of people wouldn't want to do that because they're like, why not? These people are stupid. First of all, entertainers overall, we're not rocket scientists, okay, but a lot of us are smarter than what you think we actually are.
Right. And it pays off to pull back and not be the smartest person in the room often, especially when you're trying to be, the entertainer or performer, because that's very, like, it's funny, we're the face of shows and things, but like it's very bottom rung as far as like where it actually sits in the hierarchy of a production's like power levels.
Yeah, and also people who think, where am I trying to go? Hold on. So it's like they say, oh, that person's stupid, that person's dumb. It's like, first of all, you're always constantly thinking about, and this is the thing, as a performer, you probably know this, you're always thinking about what's happening next, because when you're in the performance, you very rarely get to focus on the moment you're currently in, because shit goes wrong all the time.
Yep. Oh, the zipper's stuck. I'm now off my beats. Like, oh great, now I've lost this chunk of choreography. Yeah, you have to be in the moment ahead of you, because like if it's not going the way you thought it would, you got to be ready to prepare and plan that to change.
So one of the craziest times, I was in a competition, and the DJ had already started playing my track. And as I said, I sing live every time I perform. My track had like a little bit of an instrumental, but I wasn't getting handed a microphone. And I literally yelled at the judge on the like side of the area. I'm like, I need a microphone. And the drag queen handed it to me. I had one beat, bam, in, and then I had to hold my mic and act like nothing went wrong. And I killed the performance. I lost because judges are biased, but I'm like, and even I had one of the judges who were like, "Oh my god, you only lost by 2 points." I'm thinking, bullshit. I should have won by 4, and you fucking know it. Like, I heard, not to be arrogant, but it's like, I have ears. Like,
right. Well, yeah, go ahead. I won't cut that off. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like I know when somebody's good and when somebody's bad. And it's like, with that, I will admit, I am the person who's like, I tend to get experimental when I want to. So it's like, I'll choose a song that wasn't a hit if I feel like not performing a song that was like not a hit. And it's like some days performing deep cuts, if you're stupid enough, a lot of people will be like, "Oh my god, did you write that song?" I'm like,
Oh my god, I have
no,
to share this because it's right on that. But the first time my mom came to a drag show,
yeah,
she's like, "Oh my god, that woman sings so well." I was like, "Mom, that's a man, and he's lip syncing." And she's like,
yeah.
"Oh." I was like, "Mom, did you not know what a drag show was gonna be?" It was so cute. She like was so impressed. And she like kept tipping, and she's like, "She sings so good. It sounds like Judy Garland." I love my mom. I love you, mom. If you watch this, I'm not making fun of you. It's just really I love that story.
See, ooh. My thing is, I like drag shows. Don't get me wrong. Like, I have to say this because it sounds like I'm shitting on drag shows as I am as a performer. It's like, no, I like drag shows. I like drag shows with people who have talent. I'm not a
Yeah,
huge I'm not a huge fan of money grabbers because this is my thing. It's like I've never been that because let's get real. I've worked a lot of times for free. So it's like I tend to have a tendency not to grab for tips. But it's like when I do, my thing is I have very simple rules as a performer. I hate using wired mics. That's just my
it's always
thing.
so sad when they're like, "We only have wired." I'm like, okay. I'll be professional about it, but I'm real sad and mad about it. Yeah, wired mics are awful to interact with.
Especially because this is my thing. We're now in, even when I was performing in bars, it's like I was performing in bars in 2015, 2016, 2017, in the early 2020s. It's like
Yeah,
you can get a wired mic set for, I don't know, $25 on Amazon. Like, why are we still using wired technology? Because it doesn't take that long. You literally have somebody with a plug. They plug in the microphone a few hours before you're supposed to go on. It's ready for you when you're there. And they last for days, sometimes months, without
yeah.
needing to be charged again. It's like, spend
Well,
the
and
money.
it like makes the performance so much more free and like unless you're standing at a mic stand and not touching it or not moving for your whole song, like that's what you were trying to do. Like a wired mic will absolutely hinder anything you try to do. It will become part of the act and part of the performance. That wire is going to be something that at least somebody in the audience is watching that wire instead of you the whole time. You know,
Especially,
are they going to trip on it? Are they going to kick it under there? Like, are they going to pull it out of the mic and it gets turned off for a minute? Like, I'm really bad at that. I always yank the wire out with the mics, and I'm like, oh no, I'm still thinking. So hold on one second.
and it's like, this is my thing, especially when you have musicians. It's like, if you need to use a wired mic, do it on comedy night. Like, comedians don't need wireless mics. They're on stage
Pacing.
pacing, doing a lot of them doing their shitty like jokes about airplane food. It's like they're staying in one spot. Like,
Right. Well, and I feel like the wire adds to a spoken performance, but like with the singing, and especially if you're trying to do any level of choreography, like it's just hazardous.
and yeah, and it's like I'm not saying you have to have the headset mic. I mean, granted, if you need one, I will gladly bring my own. I have my own. It's like, but for that, it's like at bare minimum, give me a mic with no wire that I can hold in front of my face. Like that's bare minimum. It's like I'll work choreography around it if I have to. Like,
Yeah.
So, okay. I skipped some questions, so I guess I'll just go with this before I get to my next one.
Cool.
So, have you ever suffered with body insecurities?
Oh my God, ever. Like literally constantly. And it's something, yeah, how do I want to get into it? Because there's also a level of like, I've also been insecure about having body insecurity because I'm self aware enough to know that like I put a lot of work and time into my body in the gym and like
Yeah,
I don't really do the diet as much, which is why I think I don't feel as successful as I want to feel when I'm doing the work. But I definitely like have been in some really low spots in my life, especially like I have went through a really long and hard struggle with meth, as many people in the queer community have now gone through, and like that looking back on photos of that, I can see what broke me every time I looked at the mirror and saw myself. Is it just was something that like I didn't want to see myself, and so I'd rather be on a stage being seen by others is like the way that really kind of helped me cope because I didn't have to look at my own body at that point, and I wasn't self aware enough as a performer to care what the audience was thinking then. And then,
right,
as I've gotten older now, like, I put in the work and I'm like, oh, I didn't work out these 2 days before the show. So I'll go hit the gym really hard the morning of to like get a little extra pump and stuff. But even then, like the more muscle I put on or like the more refined I get, like the dark days and like the moments where I feel bad about myself are so much worse because there's this guilt of like, well, you've done the work. Why do you feel bad about yourself? And it triggers like it all stems back to family and childhood trauma, like being raped at a young age,
right,
being idolized as like a teenager by like, adult men who thinking oh, the world must love me and all this stuff, and then like now as an adult looking back like, oh, they were probably no, I don't want to say like pedophiles, but like they were attracted to the youth, not
right.
specifically like your beauty. And it's one of the things that I'm very grateful for again my parents' upbringing of like you be strong in who you are and you take that lead and you lead, because it was one of the things that like I have always been able to like eventually lay back into in my habits and like be like, okay, like yes, you feel bad, so let's find what I can change to try and start to feel better and ride that path as soon as I find it. And it's different every time. Like that's the other thing is I can't do consistency because then I get depressed that I'm doing the same thing over and over. And like I can't do food prep because then I'm like, oh, I hate eating. Then I'm eating the same thing over and over. And like I just need life to be really vibrant and changing. And focusing so much on my body makes that really hard because you need to be consistent with your body. And I think that's also where like I did go and I did like I did porn right out of college, and I loved it. I would do it again, but I was involved with some scandalous companies that
Yeah,
are well known from the era. And so, like, all of that was to say that, like, burlesque was a space where it really finally hit me. And, like, burlesque loves to tout, and it's a big thing it shows is, like, for every body is a body for burlesque. There's no rule, there's no expectations. Burlesque is about celebrating exactly who and what you are that moment, that day with that audience.
right.
And it was that permission, like coming from like go-go shows on a Friday and then a burlesque show on a Saturday. And, like I'd go home and cry and like chug a bunch of vodka and pass out after go-going. And then when I like do the burlesque shows, I'd go home, I'd go out and like celebrate and feel good about ourselves and the art we put out. And it was why burlesque was such a safe space and something that really like pulled me into like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do to change the way people see the world. It's the way change the way they interact with themselves. Is give them that permission that like you can be beautiful no matter what you look like, and you don't have to feel 100% secure. You can let the art and the audience give you that security if you're lacking.
Yeah. Well, see, okay, this is what I'm gonna say to
And
the
see,
rape
now I'm
thing.
just like, I just had myself doing a moment. It was like, oh my God, I felt my arm. And I was like, oh, no, it's too skinny. I was like, stop, not the time for that right now. Like,
No,
but
no,
yeah, it's
yeah.
things that like tiny, stupid things just trigger those moments of like, oh, well, did I do enough for this yet?
See, to the rape thing, to the rape part, I will always say this. This is what I tell people, and it's something that a lot of people don't understand, especially when it's your first experience of being raped. You end up going one of two ways. either you become sort of a prude because you feel like any sort of interaction from a man is going to trigger you, or you go the other way, which is something that I've found is even more common than most people think, which is you sleep with everybody because you feel as if you have no value.
Yeah,
The
and that really is what happened to me, and especially like that was when I really started to like let people do horrible, like physically abusive, mean, terrible things to me, because it proved that I was not worth anything, which like gave at least like this peace and comfort to like the calamity in my head of like what had happened, that I didn't tell anyone. Like it happened like right really early, like right when I moved to New York and started college, and like I just never told anyone until after I moved to Detroit. Actually, is the first time I ever told anybody what had happened in New York. And it's like as soon as I did, so much like forgiveness of myself happened inside me. It was just like it's okay that you didn't tell anyone this long, but like it's even more okay that like that happened. Like it's not my fault. It's a lot of guilt I didn't know I had held on to from the experience, like released. And it is one of the, like that's why I also it's important to talk about it. It's important to share because so many people go through
and it's with that for me at least what I found is like I looked at like why am I never able to be in successful relationships, and the reason is because when you don't value yourself and you're holding on to something, you can never fully let somebody in. And it also took me so long to admit, because as I said, I've been raped and sexually assaulted. I used to go through so much of the time being like, oh, I was sexually assaulted twice. I was sexually assaulted twice. And it was last year when I wrote the song that I'm putting on my album to come out called Rape. I was like finally confronted. I'm like, no, bitch, you were raped. You have to
it.
say
Yeah,
that you're raped, because if you don't say it, you're never going to be able to let go of it.
yeah,
And through that, I put, because in some ways, I always say with the rape came with anger, and this is heard on the album with the songs. It's like rape came out of anger. The sexual assault actually brings me more sadness because I let myself be I let myself be victimized again. And it was it was one time I was minding my own business. When I got sexually assaulted, I was minding my own business. I was trying to go home from performing.
hmm
And some guy basically like walked into my car without permission, and because again, being in an unsafe neighborhood, I remember being like, I'm like, he's in your car, just drive him home. It's gonna be better, because I didn't have a weapon on me, because it's like,
right. It's better to give in and like accept with the
yeah,
inevitability than to put up the fight and still lose.
yeah. And it's through all of it, you have to have healing. That's why when people talk about healing, and a lot of people healings through therapy, a lot of, because I've written songs since I was 14 years old, so it's like I've never experienced not putting stuff into music. And the good thing was I had a doctor on here who was a believe he's a psychologist.
Hmm
Anyway, and he was like, and he told me something, and I'm like, I literally thought, I'm like, I'm pretty sure you, the doctor, is going to tell me that you need to be in therapy. He's like, no, what you're doing is fine. I'm like, therapy could probably help you. And I'm like, am I hearing this right? Like,
Right.
and
Yeah, I love art therapy.
and
Oh, I just lost you. Hold on. Did I die or is your mic muted? Hold on 1 second. Can you use it? I just can't hear you. Oh, there you go. You're back. You're back.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, sorry. I was like, oh no, you were saying such a wonderful thing. I didn't want to. But yeah, thank you. Sorry, I'm good.
You're welcome. Yeah. So anyway, it's like with that, I got free. This is what I tell people. It's like, as an artist, never hold anything back. And if you are holding something back because you feel that you can't say it and you're afraid to say it because what if somebody looks at me like this? What if somebody looks at me like that? My feeling is we're now past, we should be. We're not ever going to 100% cure this. We are now past, for the most part, the stage of victim blaming. And if you continue to victim blame, you're a fucking asshole. Like,
Right. Yeah.
It's like, it wasn't like, oh, I was wearing this, I was wearing that. It's like, wear what the fuck you want. It's like, that came in the pandemic too. It's like, if I want to perform half fucking naked in drag, I'm going to perform half fucking naked in drag. That does not give you permission to try and finger my hole through my fishnets. That does not give you permission to do that shit. No. And people think it's cute.
It's something we at our shows we always. It's like one of the first three things we always bring up is we're not telling you can't touch our performers, but you have to wait for them to enthusiastically like give you the go. Like you never reach first, and like honestly, 90% of our performers will go out and like do some lap dances and let you like get up on them and like have fun with you as an audience member, as long as you don't grab at them as they start to come out. Like if you wait your turn, you'll get the thing you're hoping for. Usually,
yes.
We're all toddlers. We can't be patient.
Right. So, okay, here we go. So, has anyone ever stolen one of your tips?
Tips? Oh yeah. The first drag bar where I started was a little shady. It was the oldest gay bar in the Midwest. It's no longer, it's technically still there, but they changed the name and ownership, and I'm like, it's not the same bar. It's not the oldest gay bar anymore. But they had the trashiest basement, like mold literally growing on your makeup mirrors level of basement gross. And like there's multiple shows where one of the like lead girls just left the show right during the last act, and nobody had any tips left from their makeup cases or their suitcases. Like all the cash had been wiped out of the dressing rooms, and that same person 3 times had left the show early that night. How random. And they did find when they did actually try to like check cameras and secure and like press charges, she fled the state real fast and was gone out of there.
See, that's more off stage. This is my thing on stage. If you're stupid enough to steal a tip when I'm on stage, I'm holding a microphone, dumbass. If you don't, if you really don't think I'm gonna say something, I absolutely will.
Yeah, right. I guess I've never had. I mean, and I guess maybe I have. I've never noticed an on stage during a performance theft, but like now that I'm thinking like it'd be so easy. Like yeah, that's so silly. But then you're right. You have a mic, so you'd be like, I see your hand. Hello, get off the floor.
Yeah. And let's see, where am I? Oh, the other one. So, have you ever hooked up with somebody who's tipped you?
Okay, so as a very sexual person, one thing I've always tried to maintain is I try to keep a distance between my professional life and my sexuality, like my actual, like the guys I'm getting talked by sexuality. And so like I didn't sleep with people I was in high school with. I didn't sleep with people who were at my college. Like I left my circle to find sexual partners. And so I brought that into like when I started in the industry, and it was very hard. I mean, every time I was going to do an out of town gig, all of the boys that like we knew each other because they also did burlesque there, and they're like, "Oh man, you're coming to town. Please come stay at my house. Here's all the things we're gonna do that night." And I'm like, I'd get excited and stuff, and then I'd be like, but honestly, like I can't cross that line with you. I don't know where my path forward in this industry goes, and like I don't want to have any of that in any of my career. Like I want that to stay focused. And so that's a big thing, especially audiences and audience. I'm on the apps, I'm on Grindr, and the audience members who paid attention will notice me just off of like a chest pick or like off of like me in underwear because like the little tattoos I do have are very distinct and like guys are like, oh my god, I know you, I've seen you strip, and I'm like, block. No, that's not the way to greet me. Please don't tell me you've seen me strip. I don't want to hear that. So I turned down a lot of audience members. I got the first time I had sex with an audience member was I was at a sex party and I had gone into the darker area and I thought that my friend who I'd gone with was who I was having sex with, and then I turned and he's standing in front of me. And it's like, oh shit, I don't know who I'm having sex with right now. And I like turned back and it was like this front row Johnny who's at every show, like drooling, mouth open, front seat, and I was like, oh my god, oh no. And like I could just like feel the obsession, like suddenly like being aware of like that fan behind me, and it was just like as soon I like within probably 5 minutes was like, okay, we have to leave like the whole party, like I'm done, I gotta go, you can stay, I'm out though, like I gotta go deal with like processing that. And then he never came to another show, and I was like, oh no, was I bad in sex? But the thing was also he maybe was like embarrassed too, like of having that realization, or maybe seeing like, oh, he didn't know this was me, like seeing me have the realization like, oh, I didn't know you were the person I was having sex with right now. Yes, yeah, it was awkward. And then it was like, now it's funny. I think it's hilarious, like how it happened. I wish he had come to another show because I would have talked to him. We would at least like acknowledged it happened.
Yeah. See, my thing is, it didn't happen often. I'd done it a few times. I probably wouldn't do it now, but it's like, so the place I used to perform at in Orlando, when I finally got to performing at gay bars, it was this like big giant gay resort.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
nice.
It was notoriously known for people doing all sorts of things that were illegal. People used to like do drugs in like certain parts of like.
Oh yeah, I mean, even in Minneapolis, we've got that resort or that hotel where it's like, we all know what you're doing at that one. We're good. Thank you.
Yeah.
You don't even need to share. We all got it. Everybody knows.
Or like if people wanted to have sex in the parking lot, which I did once, it's like you went at it. It's like there was this beach out back, and like my thing was there was this guy who had a cross-dresser fetish, and like the thing was he's like 6 or 7 times he offered to suck my dick. I'm like, well, clearly I'm not going to tell you no. If you want to suck my dick, I'm going to let you do it. Like, that's...
You better be good at it. Like, sure, but be good.
I mean, he did it 6 or 7 times.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, with how many times he's asking, I was going to say it must have been good.
So it's like, but my thing is like, at least for me now, I don't know, maybe this is just me maturing a little bit. I don't mind doing crazy stuff like occasionally, but I don't need it a lot. It's like I like the idea of a threesome. I did a threesome not that long ago. I like having one person to focus on. Like,
yeah.
That's, I mean, threesome's cute. It's nice for like a little thing, but it's like, I don't know. Even call me old school. It's like, well, I say old school with boundaries, meaning like,
right. No, I get it.
I have to tell people, it's like, listen, if I'm flirting with somebody who's on my podcast, that's not me cheating on you. That's me being a performer. If I'm making out with a backup dancer, that's not me cheating on you. That's me being a performer. Like,
and maybe a little drunk. Like,
I don't drink.
It's just a joke because it was the backup dancer. Like,
yeah, because, well, I mean, you know what? I'll skip to that question. I'll go back to the other one. So it's like, so, well, I guess I'll ask it this way instead. So, as a performer, are you someone who does things like completely sober, or are you someone who like does alcohol, drugs, and whatever when they're performing?
You know, that's so you already jumped in on it. I struggled and have gone back and forth. I've had a couple relapses with meth in my life, and like,
right.
It's something that I've started. I really like to be an open and vocal advocate, not for sobriety, but for honesty around addiction, around use, and around what your intention is when you do relapse and go back to to drugs or alcohol, like what your release and what it is that you need a moment of escape from.
Right.
And so, uh, usually if I'm in a sober state, and I try not to, I do not do drugs before shows. And if
Right.
I have hit a point in my addiction where I am high at shows, that is the signal for me, like I have lost actual like focus and reality and out of control. Like I am now reporting to the drug. I'm not using the drug as a tool for my life.
Right.
And so that is twice, three times, oh God, three times in my adult life. I have hit that moment where like I've gone to a show and I'm like, I am so fucked up, I'm barely going to be able to get through this show. And like I would like I one show I hyperventilated after the opening act. And it's like, wow, like I've got 2 more hours of shit to get through. Like fun. It was a horrible night. But it also that was the night that like I then went home, I threw everything, all my drug stuff away. I like called a friend, I was like, come take the actual substances. I don't know. I'm not to encourage your addiction, but like
Yeah.
I know you have it, and it'll save you some money. Here you go, take the drugs. I threw all of the pipes away. You can't have those. Those are smashed. But it was a really great moment to like be like, I'm ready to now go get sober. I have to go get out of this one and get sober. Alcohol and I have a very weird relationship. My mom was a very severe alcoholic.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it had traumatized me, and then I had a point where I like realized I was like super traumatized by it, and then I had a point where I was like, well, maybe I wasn't. Maybe I just want to be dramatic about it. And she and I just started finally talking about her alcoholism when I was growing up, and it's really helped a lot. But so alcohol and I have never really been very much of friends. But
Right.
we do, and it's part of the circus tradition. We always do a champagne toast right before the show starts, and we offer sober options for everybody. But I really liked that, like just a little hit of like champagne. It's just kind of like a tradition moment for me that really hits. And I've tried to do the sober champagne. I'm like, it doesn't have like that spark for me the same way. And so I will say, if anyone's very anti-alcohol, you can judge me all you want. I do a shot, quick champagne before the shows on that. But yeah, I don't like to bring that into my performance because honestly, when I watch videos of me where I've been on substances, I'm just disappointed. Like I'm
Right.
just like, oh, you thought you were doing so well in the moment, and then you watch it back, and you're like, wow, that's what I gave that audience. That's really embarrassing and like sad that I'm better than that. I want you to know I'm better than that. Come to another show, I won't be drunk or high. Like,
Right. See, my thing is okay. So in terms of drugs, never really had a ton of problems with that. The only things that like I've had problems with, so like one thing about me, they're severely better now, but I have bone spurs in the heels of both of my feet. So like
oh,
with
yeah,
back when I was working a job where I was on my feet, I used to take before I got on health insurance and before like I got to a doctor, I was taking, as I predicted, just to get through the pain, I was taking 18 to 24 ibuprofen a day. And it weaning it off my like I was able to reduce it down and eventually like weaning myself off of it every day. Cause there was a point even when I started working the job where I'm at now where I wasn't on my feet. And I'm like, I was still taking pills every morning. And I'm like, at one day I just had to look at myself. I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, this is not like helping me at all. I'm not in pain anymore. I'm just so used to doing it that I just
yeah,
kept on doing it. And I had to like look at myself and I'm like, no, this got to stop like now.
yeah,
And then that's drugs and alcohol. I this is my thing. I'm not sober, but I don't do it now because there was a night when I was in my mid 20s, like early to mid 20s. I remember being at a bar and it was a night where people were just handing me drink after drink after drink after drink. And I think I did what I totaled off. I think it was like 5 or 6 drinks, and then I did like a shot.
Yeah,
And
that's oof.
then I got in my car and I had to drive an hour home. And
Oh no! And this is a gay. I just want to make sure it's a gay bar, right? Just thinking about the level of pour and alcohol in those joints too, right?
yes. And it's like I made it about 45 minutes home. I was about 45 minutes in, and then that's when I got pulled over by a cop.
Oh,
And luckily, my dad came to save me. Otherwise, I would have gotten DUI. So it's like
yeah.
from that, I'm like, okay, right. I don't need this. It's better for me to have water anyway. And it's like, from that, it's like, granted, I can do some performances like 1-2 drinks. I don't need it now. And there's something about being sober because I look at the drag queens who have to get fucked up every time they perform, and I'm like,
Right. Or
if
begging for shots when they're hosting, like, I don't have a shot, get another one. It's like, okay, but you've had 5.
my thing with that is, I'm like, this is just my view, and it's like I don't judge anyone who drinks alcohol. It's like I'm just saying this. It's just my view. It's like if you have to get fucked up before you perform, maybe you're not that good.
Well, and maybe performing's not what you love right now.
Right.
Like, if you have to take yourself out of the experience, like, why are you putting yourself in that experience then?
Right. It's like if you're sitting there and this is a drag queen who's notoriously known for that. She's this drag queen has shit talked my drag behind my back, and she didn't think I found out about it, except for the fact that my drag sister told me, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, okay, I'm like, whatever, you do your thing anyway. So like, actually, I will say the funniest thing, one of the funniest things was, so as I said, she shit talked my drag. I showed up to an event one time not in drag, and she didn't know who I was,
Mm-hmm.
and she was drunk off her ass, and she started hitting on me, like
Yep.
hitting on me, working on the mic, and I'm thinking, I'm like, interesting. And I let her do it because part of me wanted to be like, bitch, you fucking know who I am. But
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was funnier to just let her do it. Because I'm sitting here laughing in the back, sit here laughing in my head. I'm like, this is so fucking funny. It's like,
Right, you're like, I love this. Oh, that's so funny.
and it's like, my thing is, I don't know. She follows me. I don't know if she's ever found out about it. She's never mentioned it to me. She agreed to do this podcast once when she was drunk. She hasn't followed through with it, and my response is, don't really need you, sis. I'm like, I offered it to you, but I'm like, especially now, it's like, I don't really need you. Like, not trying to brag here, just trying to state facts. Like, I'm friends with Ricky Roman. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really need you. I know people who have been on TV. Like, I was trying to do this as a favor to you.
Right, yeah. And the thing is, like, yeah, it's so funny that it's when people are lost to themselves, even, like, it's, I don't know. I try to find it funny because I just can't find it as tragic as it is.
Yeah.
But I was, and so then the other thing I realized is the circus and like transitioning from more of a burlesque company and performer to the cirque-lesque and bringing that in. It was actually that helps a lot because when Martina and I do duets, I'm usually the like hand balancing lifting partner, flying partner. So I'm the one off the ground, and I can't do a drop of alcohol at all. Like not even the champagne toast. Like if I've had anything, I wobble and I fall. And it's the only times we've ever dropped or missed a trick is when one of us has had any level of alcohol before a show. And so like that was something we learned, and we very quickly agreed to each other, like if we're doing a duet this month, like we owe each other to stay off of that. And then seeing other circus performers, like most of our circus performers, like I'd like the sober toast, but could I have my alcohol one set aside for after the show? And like, so we'll do that where like we'll have like alcohol ones set aside for them for later when they're done with their skills, but we still give them the sober one so they can toast with the cast.
Right. And I mean, I get, well, yeah.
But that's honestly,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
that's not like a sober or like I'm a moral standing on alcohol. It's just like I don't want to hurt myself because I'm going to be like flying in the air or something. And alcohol changes your balance. It changes your center of gravity. Like, and if anything's different, like that's when people get hurt at circuses. So
And it's like with that, and it's like I know, at least for me as a performer, it's like with the alcohol, it's like, again, as I pointed out, alcohol dries out your throat. Like, if I'm sitting here, like, knowing that I'm having a hardcore perform and like belt and stuff, it's like lubricating your throat is a smart idea. Drying it out is not.
right, even if you're trying to sound gravelly or like growly in your song, you
Yeah.
don't want to dry. You want to make that sound. You don't want it to be that sound. Because then you're just hurting. Yeah.
There have been plenty of. It usually, like, when I know what you're talking about, like that thing, it usually happens like early in the morning when I'm trying to sing, like that graveliness, and it's like, I'm like, this is not good. This does not sound right. Like, let me try doing this, because I will say this: I am probably the one performer, like, based on my day job, I have early hours, so like,
I'm
a
with
lot of
you. I have an office job that's like crazy, but like it gives me insurance, and I don't have to deal with my health problems because of that.
yeah,
Like it's worth it. I'd rather do an early morning and get insured than have to figure it out for myself. So
absolutely.
I'm with you. We're the two secret we're the two secret ladies getting out of our makeup in the morning and running into an office. Like
Yeah, it's like with that, I know some people. It's like sometimes somebody will text me at like 11 p.m. It's like it's like and they're like, "Why didn't you respond back to me?" I'm like, "I was asleep." Like,
was that a show? No, I was in bed. Like
yeah, it's like it's like it's like, bitch, if I have to get up between 3:30 and 4 in the morning, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna try and fall asleep between like 9:30 and 10. Like,
yeah.
it's like I need some sort of. I mean,
I love
granted,
sleep. Especially like sleep is wonderful.
yeah.
Like if you're not sleeping, find ways to sleep better because it's worth it. A good sleep is wonderful.
My advice, take drugs. Well, take.
I get what you mean. I just love
Well,
that.
this is my thing. What I have to do is those like Tylenol PMs are like the generic Walgreens brand. It's like, if you know how to dose yourself, the bottle says take 2. I don't do
But then
this
it also
every.
says like don't take more
I
than like 8. There's a
Yeah,
window.
I usually take about 4, and it's like, granted, I only do it during the week because it's like I have to get up and go to sleep for work. On the weekends, it's like a lot of times, I will admit, I have weekends off, so it's like when I get a chance, my weekends are like, if I'm not filling out job applications, I'm sleeping. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sleeping during the middle of the day, and it's like, it helps. It's like with those, again, as you know, as a singer, with the vocal cords, everything, the more rested you are, the better you sound. Like,
Yeah. And the better everything just functions. Like you don't have to work as hard. You don't have to focus on like the techniques you've spent time learning. Like you just let your body do them.
yeah,
Yeah, and like having done so many shows where like you're in a struggle spot and you're just like it's not worth it. Like I'd rather give up like going out to the bar till 3 a.m. and go home at midnight and get some sleep and like feel good about how I'm doing the next day rather than like push through to know like, oh, I know I can do it, but like, yeah, I know I can do it, but I don't have to.
that used to be my thing. So, like, I used to granted, you tell this to most people in performing, they're like, "Oh, that's early." So my thing was when I lived in Orlando, I used to go out at like 7:30 and I used to like be at home by 12:30. It's like
Yeah,
cuz I had to get to sleep, get up at 4 a.m. to be to my job at 6. So it's like yeah, I need
yeah.
and a lot of and actually almost every time I was working till 8 p.m. So it's like
Oh,
yeah, I
ooh.
I needed a little bit of time to sleep. I'm a little bit older than that now. I need a little bit. I don't. This is first of all, I love when people say like I sleep 8 hours. I'm like that must be nice. I'm lucky if I get 6. Like
See, I feel like when I sleep 8 hours, I feel like for me at least, and I know they said that's how level. It's like that's too much for me. Like I can't like bounce back from 8 hours. Like I would rather do a smaller, like a good REM cycle, but like get up in a little faster out of it. Yeah,
yeah,
I usually try to aim like 6.5, 7 hour, man, probably 5.5 to 6 hour like
yeah.
sleeps in there.
To 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 quote Mariah Carey, I could sleep 8 hours too if I didn't have the luxury of having to sing my own songs. Like that,
Oh
that
my gosh, I
that's
love
what she said.
that.
Yeah, that's what she said about Jennifer Lopez, which
I know, boy,
as
it's so because it's what Amber from Glee was the voice
yeah,
was the one actually singing
yeah,
it. It's like
yeah.
because I love reading her thing and like I was like I knew it.
This is why I love when people are just now finding that out. They're like J Lo doesn't sing her own songs. I'm like, where the fuck
When
were you 7 years ago when I found this out?
right, she was an
Like,
actress who decided to act at singing. Like
yeah, it's like she was Selena. I'm like, are you sure that she actually sang as Selena? I don't think she did. Like,
Oh, oh my gosh! So this happened at the perfect timing. But you when you made the joke about like you go out early, and like
yeah.
you because you're getting older. I'm getting texts from a friend who's like, "It's 8. It's getting too late to go out." And I'm like, I'm working. First off, stop texting me. But also like 8 o'clock's too late to go out. Okay, maybe I'm getting old.
Well, this is the thing. It's for me. It's like it's Monday. Like,
Oh, it is a Monday. I guess I don't pay attention to days of the week anymore. I just let life hit me right now.
my thing is, I don't mind being out on like if you want me to go out like Friday night, it's fine. Well, actually, I should say this: Friday night in Fort Lauderdale, because as I pointed out, living at home, there ain't shit to do here. Most shit besides bars close at 11 p.m. Nothing to do. Like it's like I'm not out, and it's like when I'm there, I know this. It's like once it's 2 a.m. It's like I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I can go home. I don't need to be out till 4 in the morning because that's where me and like my friends with benefits who wanted to date at one point. That's where we like differed. He's someone he's like, yeah, you're never available. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that's because you sleep till noon almost every day. It's like I'm up. I've been up for hours. Like,
Right, I'm about to go back to bed. I'm like my day's ending. Like yeah. Yeah, I my big thing is like I cannot be at a bar at last call. Like I need to have already been on the way home, like out of it before last call is called. Like I just can't deal with that anymore. Like as I've gotten older, I'm like, I don't have to. I could go home a half hour earlier and not have to deal with that mess at every city, every bar. I've never not finding last call to be a mess.
yeah, and it's also I don't know what it's like in Minneapolis, but I know like in especially in Orlando, like Orlando, a lot of people think like, oh, Disney, it's open later. No, bars close at 2 a.m. So it's like,
Yeah, that's what time we close. Usually they don't
yeah,
kick you out till like 2:30.
yeah,
Like they'll have like I don't know, like there's a weird like grandfathered after hours law that I've
yeah.
never had explained to me properly. But like I thought we were closed at 2 and it's 3 and they're still here.
And it's like, first of all, when you're in those like kinds of towns, like even Detroit, I pointed this out to somebody. It's like most people can't handle their liquor. They don't need to be out drinking till 4 in the morning. It's like, if you're gonna stay open till 4, it's like start handing people drugs. So like
That's New
give them,
York. We'll go to 6 and then we get you the nice tray.
yeah. It's like give them cocaine. Give them cocaine. Yes. Anyways, so
Give the people what they want.
yes. So all right. So what are your thoughts on how the LGBT community is being treated today?
Being treated. Sorry, I'm gonna try not to like get really mad. And it's something that I've always been very actively an active. Like I get involved. As a sophomore in high school when Matthew Shepard was murdered, and I immediately started getting involved with them. And the arts high had his mom come out, and so like I got to meet and interact directly with her. So with some Minneapolis outreach through queer youth links and District 2 and 2 that was here. And so it's something that, like, at a young age, it was made very clear to me by the elder and mature gay people around me that, like, you have to be part of the fight. It wasn't really offered to us as an option as, queer kids coming up in the 90s and the early 2000s, is because they'd lost so much of a generation that there wasn't a population of gay people for the fight to happen. And so I think that also really is like why people started coming out younger, because it's just like we had to face the reality of we were going to go back to the 50s, like where you just didn't talk about it. You got married and you had your wife and you fucked your neighbor in the backyard when you could get away from her. Like, which is fine. I fuck my neighbor in his backyard when he gets away from his wife, but like I don't want to live that way. I just want to do that like once a month.
Right.
But so like what's happening today, like, so through that, I hate saying it, but like I'm not surprised where we are. And it's human history and it's psychology of that. Just seeing your ideals less often feels assaultive. It triggers a lot of instinctive like need to either fight or flight. And unfortunately, especially when it's like you see less of your place in the world, you really start to fight. And I am a fighter. For when we were going through the George Floyd rebellion here in Minneapolis, like I excused myself from moments that I knew would be more violent because I would have gotten myself killed or arrested. I don't have any chill when I get into a violent or aggressive moment. Like I will go until it is over. And so it's something that as I get older, becoming an adult, I try to find a way of like, how can I take that energy, not that anger, but the energy that is produced by that, and change the world around me, as opposed to beat the world around me into submission. Like, what can I do to really start making people see that, like, we all have the wrong perspective at a broad level, like at a broad reality. Like, we all are keep pulling onto this, like, us versus them. And, like, we need to find a way to, like, it's not us versus them. There is no versus. If we all started fighting for each other and for people who believe different things, because it's a belief, it's not reality, it's not fact, it's their belief. You're allowed to feel and believe things differently. You're not allowed to take things and hurt others because you believe differently. You still have to accept them and accept that level. And so I've kind of lost my point a little bit. I'm so sorry. Like I said, I'm trying to stay focused because like I can get really hot in these moments. But as much as I want to fight and hurt and hit back and be the ones who put them down for now trying to put us down, that's not going to get us anywhere except for just another loop, another 20 years in the future when we get into more rights and then we lose all those rights right again, like we've gone through with the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and watching it over and over. Right. And it's finding a way to like take the love we have for each other as a community, because we all have a lot of problems with each other. There's a lot of drama, but we still all hold each other up and support that. And how do we find ways to take that compassion and empathy and give it to people who maybe don't give it to us first? And I don't know what that answer is, but it is like that's what I'm trying to learn and find as a path forward with activism and with like what needs to be done, is how do we love them into submission as opposed to trying to beat them back and making them realize that they need to make themselves stronger and ready to fight harder. Is how do we tell them like there doesn't need to be a fight? you can believe what you believe. You just can't take those rights away from people.
Right. And with that, there's so much, I would say this, there's so much, in my view, fake. There have been times of fake allyism among
Oh, I'm
competitive.
trying not to get into that because that's a very big. So that's Minnesota's problem right now. Is everyone here is very. Everyone wants to fight for that future, but they're not. They're aggressively and underhandedly making large political decisions at high levels to take rights away, to make all these things, and then they're put on the face of like, oh, but I'm an ally to the queer community. It's like, right, but you're voting against our rights. So like, you're not an ally, and it's Minneapolis is really ripe with that right now. And I don't want to go off about the city. I love Minneapolis. I don't want to be like, oh, it's a terrible place. Everybody's lying, fucking people that are double sided. But it is, and that's the problem. Is it's like you can't accept that level either of like fake allyship or performative allyship. Like
Right.
there has to be actual provable actions behind the words and the intents that they are trying to hold with us as well.
See, my thing is, I always go to the example of Orlando because it's something that I know personally because I lived in Orlando pre and post Pulse. So like I remember the time that the Pulse Club nightclub shooting happened, and it's like people were checking in with me because I I was in between Orlando. I wasn't actually in Orlando at the time. I was in Atlanta when I
Good.
heard about it. But it's like the craziest thing was I remember telling somebody, like, granted, I wasn't performing at Pulse, but it's like I was set to perform in Orlando. I was set to open for somebody. I ended up having to cancel on them because I was in Atlanta. But it's like it's crazy to think that I could have been in the same city where that's was happening
Hmm.
and I wasn't. And when the Orlando Strong things came out, it's like okay, I get why you feel that we need to unite as a city, but it's like let's get real. You didn't give a shit about gay people before this happened. This the only reason you're pretending they care now is because it happened in your city. But it's like you did this as commercialized theater, and you didn't care. And it's like eventually that all just went away. And
Yeah.
I mean, Orlando is what Orlando is. I would say now they're trying to build back their dying gay scene.
Hmm.
Let's hope it works. I would never move back there because it's like, as I said, I need out of Florida. But the point that I will say is, unfortunately, as sad as it is to say, in the United States, we're good. We have it about as good as we're gonna have it right now, and our focus needs to no longer be as much in the United States, and we need to focus on areas of the Middle East and other countries out there where people are like, yes, there's these trans kids that got over here, like this trans kid committed suicide. I'm like, yes, that is tragic in its own, but you have to think about the person in Iran who's literally getting murdered simply for being gay.
Right.
And
Or
it's
like in
happening
Syria where
every
your
day.
parents will throw you off the roof of a building to the cheers of the people that you live with in your city. Like yes. And actually I think that actually maybe is kind of the direction that my brain is building of like, how do we stop making it mandatory for us to be fighting each other here with our political like two-party system that's clearly built just to keep us fighting.
Hmm.
And it you're right, it is about like it's finding that common enemy of like, okay, well, we don't have to get along, but if we had a common goal of like let's better life forever, like let's and not now I feel like I'm getting into like Trump bullshit of, or not Trump bullshit, Bush era shit of like, we're going to help them, but it's like it's not about going to take over. It's about going to like save and create safe spaces that we are privileged to have, that we don't even know the fights that went through to get us here. And like, why have we let the world fall behind on that of like creating safety and respect?
It's because this is at least how I've viewed it, and everyone. This is gonna get slightly political. I'm not gonna try and make it too political. But it's like when we're talking about people are like when people are talking about Israel versus Palestine, and they're like that was such a big like focus. It's like first of all, that's the way the news is framing it. That's not what the wars actually is. Israel is not actually fighting Palestinian people. They're fighting Hamas. So it's like you're essentially sitting there and you're talking to the United States has given foreign aid to Israel to fight a terrorist group. And my response to that is like if we're going to give foreign aid to people, we need to give foreign aid to, again, as I said, stop attacking gay and trans people, because people are like, but this is just a queer issue. I'm like, no, it's not. This is a human rights issue.
Yeah.
This is simply, it's a human rights issue. It's not.
But you shouldn't have to identify personally with somebody's direct experience to value their life for the experience that they've had.
Right. It's like in, what is it? I think it's in Saudi Arabia. It's like when women can have like clitorectomies and people are like saying like, are you against that? It's like, duh, of course I'm against that. It's like that shouldn't have to be like spoken. It's like we have to speak about the gay issues because people are too ignorant to
Well,
know them.
and
But of course we're against that, obviously.
yeah, and people are ignorant because we've lost, like, the world's not even aware of how much queer history has been actively sought out and destroyed. Like in the 40s with Nazi Germany, we lost decades of trans research, of surgical research, and medical textbooks that existed and knew everything we're just now learning. That's already happened. We did that work, and the Nazis destroyed it. They went through all of Europe and they found everything they could about gender studies, about queer studies, about all of the efforts that we're just now finally getting the results again. And it's like we could be almost 100 years past where we were if it hadn't been taken and destroyed. And it's like, so that's why it's an important issue. It's why we're vocal about it, because we're being silenced and we have had our history erased many times. The Native Americans have had their entire history around the genders and their understanding of reality and life and how we interact as species eradicated aggressively. And it's just like, that's why it's important that it's vocal. And like, I love fighting with people about the why. Like, why do you have to make such a voice about it? And like, I have decades of voices that have been taken away that you don't even know existed, because that's why we have to make a voice now.
Yes. And my favorite thing is, and we're getting into the next question with this, when people, especially when conservatives and gay conservatives are like, oh my gosh, I'm against foreigners coming into this country. I'm like, really? Then I'm like, how about you go kick out your neighbor? Because last time I checked, if your neighbor's not Navajo, Cherokee, or some other tribe, chances are they came in here as the original illegal immigrants.
Right.
They came in here and they fucking killed people. Like that's why when people are like, I'm afraid of foreigners, it's like, this is the United States. The United States is literally built off of foreigners. That's what Ellis Island is.
Yeah. Like, unless you're fighting to like return us to First Nation territories, you are pro foreigner as an American. Like, because otherwise if you wouldn't believe in, if you're anti-foreigner, then you can't believe in America. You can't believe in the states. I guess that's a better way I should say. You can't believe in the states as they exist if you don't want foreigners around, because we're the foreigners who took over a land that already populated and existed.
Yes, definitely. All right, and to my final question, what's the biggest misconception about you?
Ooh. I think probably that my compassion and the output that I put direct, especially to like other performers, I'm really big. I am available as a human being to people for emotionally what they need, help like that. And things I hear a lot secondhand about it is that it's all self-serving and it's all to push me forward. And it's something that like, especially being a bottom, like I'm a big sub bottom, shocking. I know you can't tell just by looking at me, but like it's not about pushing me forward. It's about using every single tool that I've been gifted, whether that be energies or feeling, compassion, intelligence, like things that I have, and bettering not just things around me, but people's lives. Like my parents taught me, like you can never leave something worse than what you found it. In fact, you could actively work to better it, and that applies to like the people you interact with too. And I get a lot of accusations that, well, what do you want out of it? And I was like, I don't want anything out of it. I want you to have a better day where you believe in humanity a little bit more.
Right. I mean, I absolutely get that. That's why not very many, I will say this before I get into this question, not very many guests have taken advantage of this, but I always tell people it's like the reason I always say I'm different than most podcast hosts is because like I actually care. I actually give a shit about the people who are on here. And it's like I'm always there for people. Now, granted, am I always the one who checks up on everybody? No, but in my defense, granted, yes, I've had some people on multiple times, but it's like I'm almost at 100 interviews. Like
Yeah,
I'm almost there. I've interviewed a lot of people. I've met a lot of people. I'd love to check in on everybody at all times. It's like I feel like when I see that you need something, that's when I'm there. But it's like I
right,
can't check up on any all this. There's only one of me. There's only one of
right.
me, and like I do a lot. Like
Yeah, and like yeah, and it's also important like as empathetic givers, people who are aggressive are like it's not.
yeah,
I have extra, so why would I not give that away? I don't need to hoard that for myself. It's also about important to make sure you know like there has to be a boundary. Like, and I just did it with a friend where I was just like, I keep getting upset because I feel like you're not being a good friend to me. And instead of being upset about that, I'm just gonna let you know I need a boundary with you for a little bit until you have space for a friend in your life. And it's like I'm
right,
not mad about it. I'm hurt about it, but I don't want this to be a negative experience. I want you to go through what you need to heal through so that I can help you again. But like right now you're just taking advantage of me when I'm trying to be nice and like
right.
I can't do that because that's going to hurt me and it's going to hurt other people around me that I do help that I want and actively are looking for that genuine help. So yeah,
Yes,
it's important to like within that, you still have to be aware of yourself and hold those boundaries up. And boundaries are great. Boundaries are great, folks. Without boundaries, you will literally go insane. And like,
yes.
uh,
So my two, I have two.
mhm.
One of them is that I'm told I'm intimidating, which I mean, I will say this. I am a tall fucking bitch. I am a big fucking bitch. I am
I
six.
assumed that in your photos. I'm like, you seem big. Like,
I'm six
okay.
foot. I'm 6'3". Like
Oh yeah,
yeah. I'm very. But it's like
you're like
yes,
as tall as the plant back there. Like that thing's huge next to me.
yeah. It's like yes. I am very like I have all this stuff that makes me intimidating, but it's like have a conversation with me. It's like I'm the easiest person to as performers. The I will say this, the extroverted performer, which is like literally 0.1% of us. Most of us are introverts, just deal with
Yep,
that. It's like
it's an act. Like
it's like
showbiz.
yeah, come up and talk to us. It's like I am always the person who's like, I will sit there, hug you, whatever, nice to see you meet every time. The only thing that I say no for is like, and this happened to me once in Orlando. It happened in a straight bar. Would never happen again. Do not ask me to take a picture when I'm in the middle of performing. Other than that, it's like
Oh, in the middle of oh, that's tasteless.
it was. as I said, it was at the straight bar. I was closing out my set. I was doing "Do What You Want" by Lady Gaga, and it's like I had the song playing in the background, and somebody was like, "Oh my god, can I take a picture with you?" So my daughter,
They took the
my
lyrics literally. They're coming to do what I want.
it's like
Not
it's
gonna.
like yeah, it's like I would love to send this to my daughter. And granted, it's like you don't want to be a bitch because if you say something, you're a bitch. It's like you sit there, take the picture, and then all of a sudden you have to be like. That was another one of those moments where I was like, the instrumental went in, and I had to
Yeah.
get right into the beat, and it's like I can do that. It's intense, but
And it's like,
yes,
yeah, because then you also try to like communicate to them, like, oh, I'll take a picture with you afterwards. But like, there's music and stages, then they just start yelling.
yeah,
They're like, oh, you're giving me attention. I was like, audience members, do a little homework for yourselves as well. You have a
yes,
job at the show too. Like,
and
but yeah,
that
especially at
one,
straight bars, I get that. My former now roommates, one of them does
yeah,
karaoke at like it's a gay bar, but we call it a gay themed bar because it's like a
yeah,
whole slew of straight college kids who come to gawk at the gay performers. But that's a big thing where it's like they come in and think it's their space when it's like, well, I understand you outnumber us, but it's still supposed to be a queer space. So like
right.
be respectful and like be aware of like some of the obligations you might have as an audience member watching a drag show.
That's as I say, I only have two rules. That's one of them, and another one is, and this one I don't know why I feel I have to say this before I get into my next misconception. It's don't touch my fucking hair. Don't touch my fucking.
Oh, you're not. Mm-mm.
I
You
got
touch my
I got
boob, not my hair.
no. I got scalped. I got scalped before. Like I was sitting at a bar. This happened in a queer bar, minding my own business, and somebody's like, "I want to see you without your wig," and just and it's like my thing is because I'm singing live. It's not like my shit's bobby pinned in. This
Right.
wig is sitting on my head, so it's like I know how much my hair is gonna move. So it's like that to me. I acted calm. I was pissed, clearly, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
I had on center part wig, so it's like now I have to find out exactly where my part is, line it up correctly on my face to not look crazy on my next number, which is gonna be recorded by somebody. So it's like,
Right. Well, and it's I think they also like their audience members will be like unaware. Like that's a like triggering and very clear like we're fighting. Like that's a thing. That's a active known group of like, especially the nightclub folks. Like you touch that wig, we're going to the gutter. Like it's going until we are both on the ground. And like it's not. That's never a joke. It's never funny. It's never fun. Like wigs are not a playful area for anybody.
right, right.
Oh, I'm so sorry that's awful.
Thank, thank you. As I said, it's only happened once. It's never gonna happen again.
Oh,
So
you right. And we're gonna talk about a lot in the podcast. Just so we're prepared. Like we're gonna talk about a
yeah,
lot more. Don't touch wigs.
yeah. And then what was the other one that somebody told about me? Somebody told me that I was shady, and it's like, well, as I've expressed before, I am very opinionated. So like, if I didn't have opinions, I wouldn't be an artist. But it's like, if I'm shady, it's like, granted, yes. Do I throw out sarcastic remarks? It's like, listen, this is what I tell people. I'm like, you think I'm shady? Go see Bianca Del Rio. I am. I am like Snow. I am fucking Snow White compared to Bianca Del Rio. It's like, yes. Do I say what's on my mind? Yes. In truth, a lot of it was because being suicidal, I thought I was going to be dead by now. So I figured I'm like, if I'm going to be dead,
What
but
are we doing?
before I'm
Yeah, trust
30,
me.
I
When
might
you
as
hit
well
an
just like,
age, yeah, when you hit that age that you thought you'd be dead by, trust me, life gets real weird because you're like, I didn't plan for the last 10 years of my life have been like, I don't know, I didn't expect any of this life to be around. I thought I would either been killed by meth or killed by a drug dealer by the age of 24.
yeah. So
Like,
that's why when I tell people, it's like when I'm literally thinking, I'm like, next month I'm turning 30. That blows my mind. I'm like, I'm
30,
like, I'm like,
30, go wild. 30 was ton. I was terrified for 30, and then it was awesome. It was such a good year. I had a ton of fun. I was able to forgive myself for a lot of my stuff in my 20s that I didn't know I needed to. And it was 30 is a great year. It's a good time. Don't be scared of it. I was terrified of it.
I'm not. I'm not scared again, especially as you pointed
Good.
out.
Yeah, you
Being
don't seem the type to, you don't seem scared to me.
well,
Mine,
especially because you pointed out the fact that I look younger than 30, which is why I'm not mad. Because it's like,
right. Because you can still lie if you need to. I mean,
yeah,
you don't feel like, I'm not going to tell that yet.
I remember what is it? My best friend's turning 31 this year, so he's a year older than me,
Yeah.
and he told me about how he was at somebody's house and people were guessing somebody's age and somebody thought he was 38. I'm like,
Ouch. Oh my God. I don't think I've ever had anyone guess older than my actual age. So I'm like, thank goodness. But the day it happens, I think it might be, I get it. It might be a Greek tragedy for me.
well, especially I'm like, bitch, somebody thought you were almost 40.
Oh, jeez. Oh, that's so painful. Oh, well, I love it. So I also really like from looking younger is like when I hook up with guys that are significantly younger than me too, and they're like, "So you're like my age?" And I'm like, "Oh, sure. We're just gonna stay at that. Why not?" Like,
See, my thing
oh,
is, you can't have deep conversations about that. It's like, because at some point, you don't want to have to go to the like back in my day thing, like to feel
I've said that a few
real.
times recently. I'm like, no, no, don't talk about that. I watch the young me like drift off into memory. Huh?
What did you?
I was like, oh well, back in oh shit, like literally somebody. I was like, oh, back in the day, this used to be a warehouse, blah blah blah, and they're like this building. I was like, well, no, they tore that down and they built this building. And they're like, wait, I'm sorry, how long ago were you talking about? And I was like, that's not important. We don't need numbers. I'm just gonna move on from that back in the day story.
It's it's like when you have that twink who's like, tell me what it was like to like use a Victrola, like.
Oh, my youngest nibbling has asked me some questions that I'm like, please. How old do you think I am? Really quick. Okay, what do you think the world was like in 1990? Because we had telephones, they existed. We had cell phones. They weren't good, but they existed. Like, yes, I had like I thought. Oh God, I wish I remember what it was. I think it was something about like email. They're like, did you even know what an email was by high school? It was like I had emails in elementary school. Like, hold
See,
on, go for a couple decades like younger than you think I am. Apparently,
see, my thing was, I remember doing this when I was in high school. I had this friend who like had a significantly younger brother who like, and instead of being like offended that he thought I was as old, he's like, did you know Rosa Parks? I'm like, yeah, we lived in the same apartment. I was like, yeah, we lived in the same apartment building. Like, I was.
oh, that's so the ignorance and like I get it, especially picking a historical figure. Like he probably it's so sweet. It's so stupid.
But
Oh gosh.
but see, I don't mind like. And the thing is, you have to be like. It's like sometimes you have to be like, when somebody says like, "Who's Anne Frank?" and you literally tell them like purposely a stupid thing that clearly it would be not. It's like Anne Frank was the one who led the Nazis through the Underground Railroad to get out of Germany. It's like,
That's
and
what
some
it's
people are
Lisa
like,
Frank learned about unicorns from her.
and it's like if you had all thought what I said was factual, you clearly are a dumbass. Like, granted, it's like I look at Florida when people see that's when I say when I don't know stuff, I just blame stuff on Florida. It's like I was educated in Florida. Okay, be lucky I can spell my own fucking name. Like,
You know what? And you can keep that forever. My friends here who live here from Florida, they pull anytime something stupid happens, they're like, "Hey, it's not my fault. It's Florida's." And I was like, "I
Yeah,
fully agree. That is Florida's fault. You're right."
because I think about stuff. I think about now. I love when people say like, "Let's ban books." I'm like, okay, you're gonna ban books, but you're gonna keep the internet. That makes sense. Like, I mean, granted, yes, there are many, many stories on the internet
Right.
that are stories where it's like I love it, but it's like let's keep this, but let's keep the Bible. You're gonna get rid of the books with actual facts, and you're gonna keep the Bible.
Well, and it's like if you're gonna keep the Bible, maybe you should keep it in. It's what's the not Aramaic, the original. Or yeah, is it Aramaic? Oh my god, did I remember a Bible thing? Maybe no. But like, it's like you're not even reading it how it was written. You're reading it like 14 translations through hundreds of years later. Like that's not the Bible. That's somebody's like personal like fan fiction.
No, that's exactly where it's like I look at that where people will like this is the thing when people say like Christians. I try not to judge people who are Christians, but it's like I'm like when they're like I love this. It's like really you really think that this is real? You really think that there were like burning
Yeah, like
bushes and talking snakes and like
I'm
locusts
fine
and
with
like
you learning
rivers?
your lessons from those parables, but like, yeah, when it starts to be literal, like, uh oh,
Yes, totally. Anyway, clearly we could go on for hours, but I gotta end this. All right, so
I think we did a good job of not judging Christians too harshly, just enough.
yes, not judging Christians, not judging Christians too harshly. By the way, you all saying you're eating the body and blood of Christ, you're all cannibals. Anyway, so
Oh my gosh, I love you.
my my dad got mad at me at that when I told him about that because he's like that's not what it is. I'm like you're the ones who said it. I'm just repeating what you said. Like all I'm
Also,
doing is
why do you
repeating what
praise
you.
that Jesus is literally a zombie? Like you killed him and then he came back to life. Like you're the ones who worship a zombie too. So
Yes, we're gonna keep on going, but it's like
I know. No, we're saying goodbye. We're saying goodbye. We're saying.
no, we're good. Anyway, with that being said, it was a pleasure getting to meet you.
Thank you. It was wonderful. I'm so happy you asked
Yes,
me. I just
no,
recently become obsessed with you through some of the Minneapolis
thank
folks you would interact with. I was like, oh my god, I love you. And then you reached out. I'm so
yes,
honored and proud to have gotten the chance.
yes. And with that being said, this is Gay Out the City. I'm your host, Prince Electro Diamond, and I hope you've enjoyed.